Our story begins with strange news spreading everywhere, including fishermen finding something strange and gigantic in the sea that looks exactly like a monster, and we find them saying it emerged because of nuclear water pollution. At the same time, an ancient tree suddenly appears and grows in a very strange way, and other news appears that makes people feel there's something strange in the world now. But stranger than that, no one was interested in this talk, and they saw that there was nothing more important now than the news of the breakup of the beauty queen named Chu from her boyfriend Fang. All the people saw this as the right decision, and we find them saying that Chu enrolled in a prestigious university, but Fang didn't even enroll in an ordinary university, so they see that their futures aren't on the same level. The gap between them has become big, and this relationship had to end. At this moment, we see Chu standing in the middle of a large group of people, with Fang standing in front of her without speaking. Chu begins to tell him in a clear voice in front of everyone, and we find her saying to him, "Fang, I've thought a lot, and I see that our relationship is no longer realistic. Because love that begins during school years always ends with losing our dreams. The time has come to admit that we're not compatible with each other, and living together needs courage, but it also needs equal opportunities, so let's break up." We find her saying to herself, "If he tries to use any means for us to get back together, I won't return no matter what happens." At this time, Fang hears her words and remains silent, not speaking at all. Then one of those standing speaks and says, "Why doesn't he respond to her? Maybe he's shocked or even lost his mind, because this is a beauty queen, and he's supposed to kneel before her and ask her to get back together. Even his looks don't match at all with a beautiful and rich girl like her." But suddenly Fang responds calmly and says to her, "All right, agreed," and starts walking. Then everyone is shocked by his reaction that she didn't expect at all. Even Chu herself remains standing shocked and not understanding how he didn't even try to hold on to her. We find Fang looking at her while walking and saying to her, "Do you have anything else you'd like to say?" "Obviously not, so I'll go." But as she sees him walking away from her, we find her saying to herself, "How is it this simple? Is it possible he's acting, or is this really the truth?" But we find her saying angrily, "Regardless of what you're thinking or any method you might use, I won't come back to you again. I hope you understand that." But we find Fang looking at her calmly and saying, "Don't imagine things wrong, beauty queen," and leaves her and walks away. We find everyone around her sitting in a state of shock and unable to believe that Fang left this beauty queen so simply like this. At this moment, Fang thinks and says to himself, "All the people around me now have no idea what will happen soon in terms of crises, wars, and disasters. They see that money and certificates are everything now, but very soon all these standards will turn to ashes, and then they'll know I was right, because I'm someone who returned from the future after the catastrophe that destroyed everything. The one who was in front of me is just a distant and strange character from the past to me. Now what matters to me is the present and the future that's coming at us with frightening speed. As for beauty queens, evaluations, schools, and universities, all of this won't matter again because everything is about to change. The real crisis is the crisis of humans themselves on planet Earth, because everything started yesterday, and we see strange disasters happening in more than one place, including monsters appearing in places no one could imagine. Suddenly, a strange notification appears in front of Fang, lighting up the air before him, and when he reads it, he finds written that soul awakening will begin completely after 36 days and 11 hours. He understands that this soul awakening means the appearance of a strange new energy that will completely change the shape of the world, and that then an unknown radical change will happen, and all society's standards will change completely, and a new era of spiritual practitioners will appear. Then the main standard in this world will be power. Suddenly, while he's still trying to understand the notification, he finds a strange being appearing from nowhere in front of him, and suddenly a window appears before him with writing that this system comes from the greater universe and uses very advanced methods that penetrate the secrets of existence completely. This system also has the ability to automatically form skills according to the spiritual needs that the host senses, and it's also written that current skills are 0. We find Fang trying to touch the window, but he's surprised that it's not real, and his hand passes through it as if it's just light. At this moment, a terrifying monster's head attacks him, and he finds himself in a monster's mouth covered with blood. Suddenly, the system speaks to him in a strange voice and says, "This would have been your fate if you were an ordinary host." We learn this is what actually happened to Fang in his previous life. This was the end of millions of humans on Earth, which was completely destroyed. Then Fang begins remembering his old life and says to himself, "In my previous life, I was a very ordinary person amid the events that were happening. I lived with difficulty, and all I tried to do was survive the catastrophe that destroyed the world. But I watched the homeland collapse with my eyes, and watched all the people suffer and lose everything. I knew there was no one who could come and help us, and in the end I couldn't escape from the monsters that were chasing me until I fell and died a miserable death with my heart full of hatred and desire for revenge. Maybe this is the reason that made the system choose me specifically to return to this moment again, 1 year before the beginning of Soul Awakening. But suddenly the system appears in front of him again, and informs him that it's doing a new evaluation, and a notification appears saying, "Host has been successfully linked to the system, and a new path has been opened." The system continues speaking and says, "Everything in the world can be raw material for you to form skills from and be composed of them, so try to work hard in developing your own skills and abilities, so you can be a spiritual practitioner and save the world that's about to fall again." Suddenly Fang returns to reality again and finds himself in front of the television, where there's a news anchor speaking in a tense voice, and we find him saying, "The situation that humans are living now is very dangerous and hasn't happened in all of history, and governments are asking people to try to adapt to the new environmental changes." Fang was listening to all this and saying to himself, surprised that the official authorities aren't trying to calm people down or even lie in the news they publish, and instead are asking all citizens to take preventive measures. Then Fang says, "This method is an indirect warning from the Chinese government, because in the past, there were no strange news spreading like this, and they didn't let people know what was happening. With the calm they're trying to create, this is the same method China always used to maintain state stability." Fang thinks that this calm method requires great effort and very great skill, but it's very effective rather than having people afraid and starting riots and random violence that happens in other countries, and which could never bring any result other than chaos. Fang continues saying to himself, "By the way, the system said that everything in the world I can benefit from, whether it's beauty or a place or even a strange being, so I must reach the anomaly locations that have started appearing around the world, because the more I pick up something from them earlier than other people, the more my chance increases to supply myself before the real madness begins." Suddenly he gets a notification on his phone and finds news written that Tsinghua University, which is the same university that Chu was accepted to, issued an official statement warning of strange temperatures inside the campus, saying these temperatures are lethally high and can affect people's lives, and the university is asking students to stay home now until the situation stabilizes. We find Fang looking at the news laughing, and we find him saying, "Now even universities have started entering the trend race and publishing rumors and promoting them and believing them to draw attention to strange phenomena, but this is definitely fake news because I see the weather is normal around us now and everything is very calm." But after moments he thinks again and says, "But wait, these news might be real. Anyway, this university is only 15 minutes away, so how is the temperature supposed to be lethal there while I don't feel anything here?" Suddenly, he sees a picture released from the university itself, showing the sun above the campus, and explaining that these are ultraviolet rays that can cause very serious burns, or even death in some cases, advising students not to be directly exposed to the sun currently. But despite this, no one was believing it, because at that time the sky was cloudy, so the appearance of such rays wasn't logical, and there was nothing that showed there was actual danger. At that time, Fang was saying to himself, "At the beginning of these anomalies, no one cared about them, but I take this talk seriously, and most people thought they were rumors and fabricated statements. But I'm the only one who knows something like this can actually happen, and this is the first real opportunity in front of me, and it came to me without me even moving." So Fang goes to the university, and there the first thing when he arrives, he feels something actually strange, and the atmosphere is suffocating with terrifying heat, and the people around him are running in all directions, unable to bear this heat. Plus, there are real fiery lava falling from the sky, burning the ground around them, and students are screaming with panic filling the entire place. In the middle of this chaos, Fang stands steady looking at the scene with his eyes that were used to seeing disasters, and stands saying to himself, "What exactly is happening?" He decides to approach one of the lava pieces falling from the sky, but as soon as he extends his hand and touches it, he screams a very loud scream from the intensity of pain, and his body was burned from the inside. Suddenly, the system appears before Fang for the second time, with text that reads, "Strong Yang energy fluctuation detected. Yang energy data template opened," and very strange fiery energy threads emerge from it, wrapping around Fang and entering his body. The people around him don't understand what's happening, but they notice something abnormal is occurring, and the heat around Fang begins to increase, while pressure builds throughout the entire area. On top of that, Fang keeps screaming from the pain he's feeling, as if his body would explode from the inside. At that moment, an energy explosion bursts from his body so intense that the people around him stand frozen. They can't move to the point where they feel this isn't an ordinary human, but rather a superhuman or being from another world. Fang continues screaming in pain, trying to endure it until the system appears for the second time and tells him, "Synchronization successful, you have obtained Yang energy skill and Yang breathing technique." At that moment, the pain he was feeling transforms into internal fiery energy spreading throughout his body, and he feels his body is calm and strong for the first time. There was something strange moving inside his body and under his skin. After that, we go to the university's main gate, where there's a huge crowd because this was the first day for new students, and everyone was excited looking for their place. Amid this crowd is Jo, a new female student who stands out from the rest due to her beauty, elegance, and well-known background, which makes other students focus on her and look at her. Many of them offer to help her by showing her around or carrying her belongings, but she tells them, "Thank you, but that's not necessary," and continues on her way calmly. At that moment, everyone present feels a very powerful explosion that happened near them, and people freeze in place from shock. Suddenly, a microphone at the university gate turns on, and a warning voice tells everyone present not to approach the university's north gate under any circumstances. All the people start getting tense, and their eyes begin moving toward the direction the sound came from. In the midst of all this, Jo stands in place and says to herself, "What are these strange events that have become widespread everywhere these days? I shouldn't ignore this matter, I need to find out what's happening myself." After that, we actually go to the university's north gate, where we see Fang standing in the middle of a very powerful, fiery aura wrapped around his body, making the place itself boil. The system window appears before him, showing him the features of the Yang breathing technique he obtained, which enables him to look at the burning sun without being affected, and also to inhale high heat and absorb it into his body to increase his body's strength even more. With every breath he takes, his special powers increase, and on top of all this, the system gives him 50 points. Fang doesn't understand what these points are exactly, but they give him a strange feeling in his body, as if additional energy was pumped into him. Fang says to himself, "I don't understand what these points are right now, but the feeling I got tells me they're useful, and I need to discover how to benefit from them as soon as possible." At that moment, all the students are still not comprehending the sudden coldness that came around them, or the strange sounds that started appearing from the direction of the north gate. But curiosity overcomes them, and everyone starts moving together toward that direction. They actually begin approaching, but as soon as they arrive, the university president himself suddenly appears with his voice very loud, shouting at them, "What are you doing here? Didn't the warning reach you? I sent you a clear message prohibiting approach to the north gate. Leave immediately and go complete your registration, instead of dividing your grades from the first day." Suddenly, one of the guards who was standing quietly beside the president intervenes and tells the officials, "Please reset the prohibition line immediately and completely close the north gate area." Without any discussion, the president immediately agrees to his request. Problem, every them. He had higher authority than the university president herself, and his appearance wasn't that of a guard at all. At that moment, a notification from the system appears to Fang saying, "Area cleaned of Grade A contamination within the north gate of Qing University." At the same time, Fang stands shocked and says to himself, "Contamination area. This means the Chinese government itself has designated this point as a source of danger, and this confirms that spirit awakening energy is actually beginning to emerge from the earth, and what I did earlier is part of what's coming." But the government has reached this classification, so surely there are other people exactly like me who started seeing what I saw before the catastrophe. But before he can complete this thought, the sound of alarm sirens interrupts his concentration, and the president repeats his warning in a louder voice, ordering everyone present to evacuate the area immediately. Soldiers wearing official uniforms begin establishing a new prohibition line around the north gate and prevent anyone from approaching. The students start gathering, shocked by everything happening and not understanding what the story is exactly or why there are military people here. We find Fang starting to feel worried and saying to himself, "If there's going to be extra attention here, and I'm still at the beginning of the road, no one should notice me now, I need to move immediately." He actually starts moving quietly to get away from the place, but the person who was with the president begins advancing with confident steps toward the explosion center, kneels down and touches the ground. We find him saying, "This isn't a natural disaster, this is man-made. Someone definitely touched spirit energy first, and we didn't notice them." At that moment, Jo is standing from afar and heard his words, which shocks her and makes her say to herself, "Man-made? Spirit energy? What exactly is happening? This isn't a natural phenomenon at all." She looks around the place with her eyes and sees Fang from afar. Doubt begins entering her mind, and she says to herself, "Fang might be related to this matter, but no, don't be silly. His academic level is weak anyway, so surely he wasn't accepted into a prestigious university like this." After some time, we go to Fang's house where he's lying on the bed with his face red from the intense heat and warmth filling his entire body. He's breathing with difficulty while saying to himself, "What is this feeling? I feel like my whole body is literally boiling. I feel the heat now as if I'm on fire exactly. Why won't this feeling go away, and why does it continue with such intensity? I've tried everything. I showered with cold water and turned on the air conditioning at full power. And with all this, there's no beneficial effect, and the temperature won't drop from my body. If this situation continues like this, I won't be able to sleep at all today. Anyway, let me see what happened today and what this big commotion was at the university. I wonder if the government actually suspected me, and will I be discovered? I need to make sure." Fang actually gets up and starts opening the news, his eyes gleaming as he reads the huge headline issued by the Spiritual Energy Practice Association about updating the level chart. Then Fang says to himself, "I knew this association existed before the catastrophe, which everyone thought was just a trivial website on the internet. And they thought these were just novel writers who loved fantasy and hallucinations about energy and posted some theories about spiritual training. But the truth is, this association was much more than that." Suddenly his eye falls on a photo published with the news, and his shock grows when he finds that the person he saw in the photo is the same person he saw at the university at the North Gate. Then he says to himself, "Isn't this the same person who was standing with the university president? This definitely can't be a coincidence. This person has something big behind him." He learns from the news that the group officially published a new classification for the level of magic and spiritual energy practitioners, which is divided into 5 levels, with the 6th level considered a stage beyond classification. The first level is called Devil's Axe, and this is specific to using ancient tools to create human weapons. The second level is called Core Making, and this is based on energy technique at a specific point in the body. The third level is called Diamond Energy, and this depends on using blood and bones as fuel for power. The 4th level is called Royal Moon, and the 5th level is called Morning Sunday. The 6th level is Complete Liberation, and this means the person can reach a state higher than life and death, and can control the laws of the universe itself. We find at that time Fang saying to himself, "Although all this talk is vague and its presentation resembles science fiction, this formatting and the way the article was written is very clear to me, because this is the same style I used to see in the future in my previous life, and this watermark of theirs means the government is behind this matter. I wonder if this official announcement comes from the Chinese government? But in my previous life, I never saw anyone talk about this association. Maybe I didn't know then, because I was just an ordinary person drowning in the middle of the catastrophe and wasn't able to access this information, nor was I interested at all. This isn't the time to think too much. Let me now try the Golden Yang breathing technique, EMNE. Maybe I'll be able to understand more." Indeed, Fang begins to take a meditation position and closes his eyes. After great concentration, he starts implementing this technique. Every breath that came out of him was as if there was a dormant fire inside him exactly, and a strange golden radiant aura formed around his body. This aura begins to grow larger and takes control of the entire space, to the point where his body starts floating in the air amidst this energy. Then Fang whispers to himself and says, "The first step to transforming the body into a weapon is that I must contain this energy and the heavenly and earthly spirit energy and control it. This is the first key to true power." Suddenly, a violent spiritual explosion occurs, and terrifying energy is generated as if coming from the heart of the planet, taking control of the entire place. Everything around him trembles from this force, and Fang is actually able to break through officially and reach the Devil's Axe star. Suddenly, the system window appears before him, informing him that he can use writing points to implant acquired data into anything before him, and the current number of points is 50. Then Fang is surprised and says to himself, "Writing points, what is this phrase? And also implanting acquired data, what exactly is this? Could it possibly mean the Yang breathing technique? Well, if this is true, can I really implant this power into anything like inanimate objects?" He thinks quickly and decides to try. He focuses on the cup next to him inside the room and directs his special power at it. Then the system appears before him again with a new message. "Do you want to consume writing points to implant the solar property in this object? Choose yes or no." Without any hesitation, Fang chooses yes. The cup begins to shake and move as if it has a soul, and Fang is amazed that the cup actually moved, and this forced implantation gives the object supernatural ability. This means I can literally put this Yang technique into anything, and it will turn into something alive with solar properties. Well, if I put this power into a weapon like a gun or sword, I'll definitely be able to make a very powerful special weapon for myself. At that same moment, the system appears to him again, saying that a real weapon must be assembled from different types of data, and the more types of data increase, the more the weapon's power and special characteristics will increase. This means Fang has a long road ahead to collect the components, but this weapon will be specialized for him alone according to his special power, and will be a very important tool when facing mutated beasts again. We find him saying to himself, "If I want revenge, I must be very well prepared." But at that same moment we see the appearance of a beast, in the form of a huge and terrifying rabbit, and in the midst of darkness and silence, we go in front of Fang's house. But suddenly a terrifying, unnatural entity appears before him with glowing eyes of a strange color. This is the new mutated beast, and it's also clear that things won't go smoothly, my friend. Every port switch. At this moment Fang is sleeping in the darkness, but suddenly he wakes up frightened by a strange sound, the sound of a rat around the room. Fang gets up from his bed looking around in surprise and says to himself, "Where is this sound coming from?" He starts searching the room and under the bed, but there's no trace of the rat. He says, maybe it entered through the window or sewage pipes, but when he thinks for a while he says to himself, "I've now reached the devil's axe level, and this makes my senses stronger than any normal human, and this could explain that my ears might have heard sounds from my neighbor's house next door. But there's something unnatural about this sound." He decides to track the sound. Indeed, he walks following it until he reaches a hallway at the end of the house. And there he finds something very strange, and sees a huge creature shaped like a rabbit, but with an unnatural size and very frightening eyes. We find Fang then freezing in place from terror and saying to himself, "A mutated beast with night spirit fruit. My memories from my previous life are still not clearly strong, but this sight brings back a frightening feeling as if I've seen it before." He grabs his heart and tries to calm himself a little. But at that same moment, we go to a girl standing on top of a very tall building roof, talking calmly on the phone and saying, "This rabbit ate the night spirit fruit, and why hasn't anyone been able to catch it yet?" She knows its speed is terrifying and tells him, "I'll monitor its movements, and if there's any news I'll inform you." But while she's talking, a strange energy catches her attention, and we find her saying in a tense voice, "There's beast energy 20 kilometers away." She jumps from the building at terrifying speed while talking to herself saying, "I must get there before anyone gets hurt. And we must be prepared to purify this area, because if another evolution happens in this beast, it could be a real disaster." At that same moment, as she's descending at lightning speed from the building, one of the employees working in the company sees her as she passes in front of his eyes. So he freezes for a moment from shock, and we find him saying to himself, "We're now on the 65th floor. How is there someone climbing to this height at all? I must be imagining things." We return to Fang at the same time, and we find the beast attacking him at crazy speed, but Fang manages to dodge the attack at the last moment. We find his body moving with strange agility and landing on the ground while he says to himself, "The physical changes after the breakthrough were very significant, because now I can see every movement, as if time has become slow, and my muscles move on their own without even thinking, and my reaction has become faster than ever before." He asks himself, have these mutated beasts really been able to appear this quickly? In my previous life, there weren't beasts this dangerous except after months, especially since night energy doubles their power and makes them lose their minds. If I left this beast for one more moment, it could eat anyone in this building. So he decides to attack with all his strength, and the aura around him gathers and turns into a thermal whirlwind. Every step he takes breaks the ground beneath him, and he directs a direct blow at the beast that explodes half the wall and sends it flying far away. Then he gathers his energy into a fireball and hits it with it, and this ball penetrates the beast's body, but suddenly the beast tries to swallow it as if eating it. We find Fang shocked and saying to himself, "Solar energy is very powerful and pure energy. How is this beast trying to absorb it? This is absolutely unnatural, as if it's trying to find a way to die." Suddenly its body explodes and creates tremendous light and very loud sound, to the point that someone on one of the floors in the building is startled and says in surprise, "That's thunder." But when he looks out the window, he finds nothing. We find Fang landing on the ground amidst the remains of the rabbit's body that was completely charred while he says to himself, "This wasn't a beast, this was a hungry ghost wanting to devour my energy, and despite being nocturnal, it faced solar energy with great madness, and it was clearly really hungry. If I were still an ordinary person, my energy would never have been sufficient, and this entire building would have long ago turned into a meal for this beast. To be able to face threats like this again, I must be able to gather more spiritual techniques." After Fang leaves, the girl who was on top of the building arrives at the incident location and discovers that the beast has turned into fragments. We find her talking into her earpiece saying, "The target is dead, and the body exploded, so I'll start collecting the remaining night energy." But as soon as she puts her hand on the fragments, she senses a strange energy, and we find her saying, This is thermal energy exactly like pure solar energy and resembles the energy that appeared at the North Qing University gate. Then we know she's the same girl who was with the director when he was at the university, but she was hiding then. She continues saying, "This is definitely not a coincidence." She reports to the center that the rabbit died, but she wasn't the one who killed it, and apparently there was a new awakened one with very high energy. The center's response is that this energy, although from an axe resembling one star, is very pure, and exactly resembles the solar energy that appeared before. He starts searching in the archive but finds no record of this awakened one, so he tells her, "We must get to know him as quickly as possible." He orders her to stop all other missions and make the priority now to track him and register him in the association and try to convince him to join them. At that time, we find this girl saying to herself, "This person is really unnatural, and the association is right, and we must get to know him." The next morning, Fang wakes up and says, "Waking up early really helps with training. I feel the sun's rays touching my skin, and this is the right time to start the golden breathing technique to increase my special energy." He actually starts breathing slowly, amidst a very large aura of energy, and feels that every breath he takes fills his body with pure power. He says to himself, "Since entering the Devil's Axe stage, I feel this energy has become different and become like hidden lines forming around the royal axe." He begins to feel a radiant aura gathering around his body, so he says to himself, "Am I really about to break through to the second level this quickly?" We find the energy clearly forming in his hand in the shape of an axe, and he holds it and notices it's much lighter than yesterday. Its weight was cut in half. At this moment, he plunges the axe into his body amidst an amazing energy whirlwind spreading around him. Suddenly, he gets a notification telling him, "You have been promoted to the next star of the Devil's Axe stage." Fang's body begins to glow with a layer of energy, as if his skin has become armor of light, and we find him saying to himself, "Now my body has become much stronger and noticeably tougher. But I know this rapid progress was largely due to the energy that remained inside my body from the previous breakthrough, and I couldn't use it completely then. Therefore, from now on, every step I take must be calculated and steady, so I can build these powers in a real way, because the supernatural phenomena resulting from my training have become very strong and very apparent anywhere. I felt that I must find a place that is quiet and isolated, and away from people's eyes." Indeed, we move to the second scene at the association's main office, and there the director looks at the report, and we find him saying, "A new wave of solar energy has been discovered appearing for the second time, and this means the same awakened one has started moving again." At the same time, we see him standing on the edge of a distant river, holding his new special sword, and opening the system window, which tells him, "Do you wish to use writing points to merge the element with golden sun energy?" And then the sword begins to shine with terrifying energy radiation, and we find Fang feeling hot energy flowing through his veins. He says to himself, "The last time when I used a small statue as a weapon and tried to upgrade it, the programming then succeeded, but the statue wasn't able to withstand the yang energy inside it. But now I feel this sword is different, and the compatibility between it and my energy is very high, as if they were created for each other." Indeed, a notification appears confirming the programming succeeded, so Fang laughs while holding the sword and says, "Now let me try its true power." Indeed, he begins moving the sword in his hand, and the solar energy explodes around him so terrifyingly that the mountains around him were about to burn from the heat's intensity, and the smoke and sound were very violent. Ying to stay alive and just stay alive. This consumed all my energy. Fang says to himself, "This explosion and intensity were extremely violent, and this will definitely attract the attention of people around me in this place if anyone is nearby." He sheathes his sword and says, "I must get out of here quickly before anyone arrives." As soon as Fang walks away from the place, the girl who had been trying to reach him arrives at the location. She looks around and says to herself, "I only went out to get some simple things, yet I missed the opportunity again by a very small margin. This is definitely bad luck." Suddenly, as she approaches the area, she notices that the hot springs there have started boiling abnormally. She sighs and says, "Now what am I supposed to do? The classification department will definitely yell at me again, especially since the entire place has been destroyed ever since this person appeared. And I don't know how to complete any mission as it's supposed to end." But as she turns around, she notices something strange and finds remnants of energy aura from that still present in the air. She's surprised by a strange force that makes her heart beat rapidly as she says to herself, "Impossible. Yesterday his energy was at the 1-star Devil Axe stage, but now it has transformed to 2 stars in just one day. And not only that, this aura is intertwined with another much stronger energy, and it's clearly the energy of a spiritual weapon." She opens her eyes wide and says, "This means he formed a spiritual weapon? This is impossible because spiritual characteristics unite within the weapon completely with extreme difficulty, and this gives the weapon supernatural power. But these weapons are so rare that even the association itself only has 2 of this type, so how was he able to obtain one? No, I must be imagining these things or I made an error in judgment. But now let me start cleaning up the mess that happened, and I'll begin with this river and restore it to normal again. At this moment, Fang is walking through the forest with calm around him, but his head is occupied as he says to himself, now my weapon has the yang characteristic, but the system hasn't told me yet whether I can only possess one characteristic or if I can gather more than one characteristic. Especially since the system initially told me that I can write and create different techniques, so when I'm able to take new characteristics, will I be able to incorporate them into the weapon as well, or not? After that, Fang starts browsing his phone. Suddenly he receives a message from someone saying, I have leaked information about a new breakthrough field. Are you interested in knowing something about it and forming a team together so we can go there? This way the safety rate will be higher and we'll also divide the resources equally among us. Fang thinks for some time and says to himself, send me the location. So he sends him a file titled Information Package with Dark River and Lava Dragon written inside. Fang knows that this dark river is originally an underground river formed from cracks in the Earth's layers, but after the heavenly and earthly transformation, this watercourse completely changed and became currents and molten lava. Additionally, the temperature in the area has now become extremely high in a very difficult way, and no one can withstand it. When Fang first reads this, he says to himself, this place resembles exactly the yang characteristic I have, and I'm sure I can benefit greatly from this environment. Indeed, Fang agrees to join the team and travel with them to this area. Afterwards, he goes to an area called Benimoko, and we see a group standing in front of a massive gate carved into the heart of a mountain with tension in the air. One of them asks while looking around, when will the friend you spoke about arrive? Then the person who organized this expedition replies, very soon. After that, he looks around and says to a woman standing there, I thank you especially, Xiao, because thanks to your map and the information you brought, we reached here without any problems. The details were so precise that the path was as clear as the Sunday. She smiles at him with a calm and gentle smile and says, there's no need to exaggerate. This is my duty, and on the contrary, I'm the one who wants to thank you all for coming with me and participating in this exploration. But wait, when we enter, we must all pay attention to each other and be careful with every step. Without showing any impression on her face, we find her saying to herself, unfortunately, it's also clear that there isn't a single one among them who is remarkable or has sufficient talent. I was hoping to find someone special and recommend them to the association, but apparently luck wasn't with me. We then learn that Xiao isn't just the expedition leader, but she's an employee at the Ministry of Culture and an active member of the Spiritual Energy Training Association, which many pioneers don't know is officially affiliated with the Chinese government. At this moment, Fang appears very calmly, wearing simple clothes with ordinary face and features, but his eyes have an unusual look. He reaches the gate and says to them, sorry for being late. He welcomes them with a simple smile. As soon as they walk, we see Xiao up close looking at him with surprise and saying to herself, is this the one we were waiting for? He looks very young, and it's also clear he's at the 2-star Devil Axe stage. But what's really strange is that although his energy is strong, I don't feel any pressure that I should feel from someone with this power. Then everyone heads toward the gate that was carved in the heart of the mountain, and opens it calmly as they enter carefully. Fang says to them, I'll walk in front and you stay behind me. Light the path and watch the ground, because there are many rocks you might trip over. Xiao warns and says to him, walk carefully and take it easy because the passage is dangerous and very narrow. But he continues and walks confidently. One of those present whispers to the one beside him and says, I thought all the water in the river had turned into boiling lava, but a little while ago I felt a drop of water fall on me, and I almost jumped out of my place from shock. Also, the heat isn't as intense as I expected. The second one replies and confirms, that's because we still haven't reached the heart of the real pollution, and we still have a long way to go. Suddenly Xiao approaches Fang and says to him, if you feel any fatigue or discomfort, tell me immediately so we can help you. But Fang replies with a gentle smile and says to himself, although I'm the last one to join this group, they treat me as if I'm really one of them. Maybe because they're naturally good people, or because they're in a difficult time and each of them is looking for partners they can trust. After a little time, they reach a strange area where lava explodes randomly and terrifyingly from between the rocks. Fang starts approaching the place despite Xiao's warnings telling him that this place is extremely dangerous and he shouldn't get close like this, but he doesn't care and extends his hand into the boiling lava. Everyone screams at him saying, are you crazy or what? "What are you doing? You're running toward your death." One of them actually runs to pull him away, but suddenly the entire place explodes unexpectedly, and everything shakes around Fang. Then the system window appears before him with text saying, "A celestial phenomenon called heart heat has been discovered. This phenomenon is now being analyzed. Maximum computational capacity has been activated, and encryption is in progress." In another window, a detailed explanation appears, saying that internal flame is a type of high heat that carries characteristics of powerful explosion and unnatural destructive force. As for the Crimson Sword technique, it depends on drawing the sword with its full power, and each time the blade appears, it becomes coated with a layer of fire, and with it launches fiery lightning that surrounds the entire sword. This layer is very thick and full of flame energy, and filled with divine energy, that ignites a great desire for battle within the fighter, and makes him release enormous energy. At this moment, Fang uses writing points to implant the internal flame trait inside the Tang sword, and strange energy forms around the sword. All this happens amid a very powerful explosion that makes the earth itself shake. Suddenly, amid all the smoke and high heat, Fang's body appears flying from the force of the explosion. Everyone stands shocked and unbelieving that he's still alive, because what happened to him is something no one could ever withstand. Additionally, the weapon absorbs the lava's power and stores it within itself. Then one of those standing says with great amazement, "It seems he was able to recover quickly, and what just happened might be a simple accident in his training and not something dangerous. Now the spiritual energy around us has started to stabilize, and I really feel it and can absorb it with ease." His friend replies while smiling, "I also feel the same change, and all I need now is a little good training, so I can take the first real step on the path of soul training." But at the same time, Xiao tells them in a serious tone, "I'm not here to train. I came only to collect data, and you can focus on your training comfortably while I monitor the area around us to ensure your safety." At the same moment, Xiao notices other people entering the place, and feels a strange danger that makes her heart beat rapidly. 3 suspicious-looking people appear with their leader looking around confidently and saying, "Get out of here, weaklings. This area now belongs to us, and my brothers are the ones who will absorb this energy." Here Xiao freezes in place and says to herself with obvious fear, "What's happening is not normal. These people are extremely strong. I see Devil Axe rank marks on all 3 of them, and they're all in the same group. This means their power is very high. We're practically nothing before them. Even if we all allied together, we wouldn't be able to stand against them." Quickly, she gathers her courage and goes to them saying in a calm voice, but actually she's very afraid. "We came here first and we're already absorbing this energy. We had no intention of monopolizing the place. We can share this energy together and everyone will benefit." But the leader looks at her with a sharp gaze and says to her angrily, "Who do you think you are to talk to me like this? Have you even entered the Devil Axe rank? Go away before we ruin you for the rest of your life." At the same time, Xiao bites her lips from intense tension and says to herself, "The current world we've come to live in, only the strong have a place, and the weak are devoured without anyone asking about them. This is the law now. Strength rules and resources don't go to those who need them, but to those who can take them by force." At this moment, Xiao feels that no matter how much she tries to be rational, she will never be able to protect her friends against this type of fighters. But at this moment, Fang enters and looks at them with a strong gaze, saying in his calm voice, "You also look big and strong, but it's clear you don't know how to do anything other than bully a small girl." Then, without saying another word, he draws his own sword. Suddenly, fire explodes around him in a terrifying way that makes the entire team freeze in place from fear. And as soon as he raises his sword toward them, this aura becomes much stronger and causes a small explosion in the air that makes them retreat quickly, shocked by the power before them. Xiao, who was in a distant place with the rest of the team, senses the terrifying energy and looks toward it with concern. Meanwhile, Fang says to himself, "The law of the jungle that rules here now, and many people's lives are being oppressed. I know this talk won't affect people like these, so there's no other solution but to use force." And indeed he raises his sword again while saying to them, "This is your last chance, leave here now." The leader of the other group trembles and says, "This is a sub-explosion. What's happening here? How does he possess this power?" He turns back to look at his team, screaming at them and telling them to leave quickly. Indeed, they all flee from the place terrified, and everyone stands amazed by the power that emerged from Fang. But he looks at them calmly and says, "There's nothing worth this amazement. Anyway, since you've finished your training, let's leave here." He walks without looking back, and they go with him. At the same time, Xiao remains standing silently for some time, looking at the place where they were, and says, "It's clear that the spiritual energy in the area has been contaminated by the intensity of Fang's aura." She thinks, if this sword strike had hit any of them, they would have long ago become burned and charred corpses. This is definitely a gifted and extraordinary pioneer. He must have high qualities and first-class talent. She decides to inform her organization. Indeed, she goes to the Spiritual Energy Training Association, and there speaks to the employee, telling her she witnessed a pioneer with absolutely abnormal qualities. The employee says to her, "Do you mean there's another pioneer with high qualities who has appeared?" Xiao looks at her and says, "Another? What do you mean by another?" But she falls silent because she remembers that Fang is a different person and not the one they mean who caused the energy explosion near the North University gate. She decides not to tell the truth and says, "No, I don't mean anything, but I've recorded this case, and if there's any development, inform me immediately." After that, she hangs up the phone, and there's a leader standing nearby who hears this conversation. The employee looks at him and says, "Did we also win the grand prize after two pioneers with high qualities appeared one right after the other?" But the leader responds, "Win what? But what you're talking about, pioneers with high qualities have now become very rare, and each one becomes a person of high status, greatly valued, and important figures in the power center in the future. But I'm tired and want to resign from all this pressure." At the same moment, Fang is walking among people but disguised. Nevertheless, people notice the large sword behind his back, and keep looking at him with such admiration that one of them approaches him wanting to ask where this sword was made. Then Fang opens his phone and starts browsing through news that was all talking about the strange forces that emerged from the cave, and almost all websites were talking about it as if it were a global event. At the same time, Fang looks at the screen silently, saying to himself in a calm voice, "All this because of the internal flame. I really wasn't careful enough. I should have been more careful." It's very natural that people wonder how firepower reaching 2000 degrees Celsius happened without causing a major disaster like an explosion or comprehensive fire. Also, what revealed my characteristics this way has only two possibilities behind it, and one of them is definitely scanning my energy fingerprint, and these results came out. Besides, after I absorbed a huge amount of spiritual energy, which is naturally connected to mana, I started feeling that operating the Golden Sun breathing technique again could really make me break through again, and this is both terrifying and exciting at the same time. He decides without any hesitation to go to the back mountain as quickly as possible. Indeed, after 5 minutes, Fang arrives there. The atmosphere is calm, and the nature around him is very beautiful, but the air carried a very faint smell of burned energy, and the mountain itself still remembered what happened hours ago. At the same moment, we see a girl standing at the edges of the place, sitting and searching for something around her. This girl belongs to the association. Her name is Sue, and she has finished repairing the area that Fang destroyed when the flame flowed. She sits taking a deep breath and says to herself, "Finally we finished cleaning." But suddenly her eyes widen as she looks up and sees a huge fire force exploding in the sky, in such a brilliant way that the color of the clouds themselves changes. At the same time, she says to herself while frozen in place by these terrifying forces, "This is the same energy we were looking for. This person must be here now." She continues, shocked, saying, "But this is strange. This person is clearly about to break through to the 3-star Demon Axe rank. Is this reasonable, or can any mind even believe that just a person in the demon rank caused all this commotion? How does his energy reaction reach all this extent?" She starts going there quickly, saying to herself, "If he's really the same person I'm looking for, this means I have an opportunity that won't repeat itself, and I must catch him right now." At this moment, Fang is sitting in the middle of a huge whirlpool of spiritual energy, and the aura around him was so terrifying that the ground beneath him was shaking, and the sky above him also starts turning orange. Suddenly, a giant axe of energy forms above him, sparkling strangely. Sue watches him from afar and freezes in place as soon as she sees the shape of the royal axe, saying to herself in shock, "Is he trying to move the royal axe? Impossible. How can he control spiritual energy this way with such stability and concentration, as if he's been used to it for long years? This energy is the same energy that broke me long ago when I tried to break through to the 2nd-star Demon Axe level. The energy then rebounded on me, and at the same time I sat for a whole week between life and death. So how can one person control all these threads as if they're part of his body? And then each thread in them is pure in an abnormal way, as if they were filtered millions of times. This is impossible to happen from mere natural talent. This boy definitely looks like he's been training from behind the world for hundreds of years or something else. I don't even want to remember the pain I felt then, besides having a physical structure considered among the top 10 strongest in our city, and yet I couldn't bear the spiritual pressure of the axe. But he's not just using it, he's dealing with it as if he's breathing it. very focused, not running like other fighters, or when they feel the breakthrough, they throw themselves quickly to finish. He advances with calculated steps, and his eyes have the look of someone who lived for thousands of years in battles and knows exactly what he's doing, like an ancient teacher returned from the past in a young boy's body. While she's thinking about all this, she notices that the royal axe started moving slightly toward the east. When she was following the location of this aura, she reaches somewhere and doesn't find Fang. She only finds the aura itself still present in the place. She looks around with concentration and says to herself, I was only late about half a minute, but it's clear that he sensed me and realized I was watching him. This means if he continues like this, it will be impossible for me to convince him to join us. We find her standing and speaking loudly. Master, I'm sure you're still nearby and haven't left the place. At the same time, he appears watching her from a not distant place, looking at her calmly and saying to himself, so this is the one who was watching me in the past days. At this moment, Sue continues her words and says, My name is Sue, leader of the Firefly team belonging to the Spiritual Practitioners Alliance of the Xia people, and also one of the first pioneers. On behalf of the Alliance, I invite you to join us. I've been following your steps in the past 2 days, and hoped you would be part of our official alliance and not get the wrong idea about me. All the papers are ready in case you agree. Finally, she says to herself, I wonder if he'll feel insulted by my approach? Should I insist more or not? No, I must choose every word carefully and my tone should be calm. At the same moment, Fang responds with a calm voice, What would make me do that? At the same time, when Sue hears his voice, she suddenly gets nervous and starts stuttering. Because, she thinks quickly in her mind, what do you say now? Should you tell the truth or try to beat around the bush? Finally, she decides to confront him with words and tells him frankly, the truth is that the Xiao nation is trying to gather all the first pioneers, unite them, and move them in one organized path while providing them additional protection, because the whole world is now growing chaotically, and everyone strengthens themselves in their own way. I know that joining the Alliance might feel like a constraint, but in the end, we're all facing difficult confrontations due to the return of spiritual energy and the appearance of unknown enemies, and we must stand together to face them. Then Fang looks at her and says, Well, what if I told you I don't want to, and I don't trust you enough? At the same time, Sue says to him with extreme nervousness, My name is Sue and I was a known player before the return of spiritual energy, but I'm not sure if you've heard of me or not. She quickly takes out her card and raises it in front of him saying, Please believe me and see for yourself. At the same moment, Fang looks at her and says to himself, I actually remembered her. He remembers a picture of her that was spread in the championships she won in the past, and thinks, As I expected, those with superhuman physical abilities are always closest to transforming into pioneers. But despite her running very fast, I remember from my previous life that the Xia nation ultimately failed and was the cause of humanity's complete destruction. After what happened and with my return with the system, I must play the role I'm supposed to play, but the time is still not right. Fang speaks to her. I actually remembered you, so I'll think about what you said, but on one condition, you must stay silent and not talk about where I am to anyone. Then he looks at her and says to himself, From her behavior, it's clear the Alliance isn't planning to get into problems with me at the current time, and this is good, and I can benefit from it. But Sue suddenly says to him in a low voice, I can help you, and we can cooperate together, but there's something important. The Alliance noticed the big change that happened in you after the breakthrough, so you're required to write a report that has a little truth and a little lies. What do you think? Fang agrees without any hesitation. But before she completes her words and extends her hands to give him the device, he has already turned and started walking without saying a word, leaving her standing trying to understand what happened. At the same time, she calls the center and says, I still haven't been able to catch him. He's avoiding me on purpose, and I'm making all this effort to erase the traces of this powerful person. But the official at the center responds to her saying, Stop thinking about this matter because he sees that your presence on an external mission is best right now, since in the periods that have passed, the anomalous entities have started appearing again. At the same time, Sue feels tense and says, They're back, these strange bloody creatures? I will never be part of them because they are monitored in an unnatural way, and part of them is cold and evil, dealing with a frozen mind that doesn't care about anything, and another part is crazy and thirsty for blood in a terrifying way, and draws their energy from the contamination zone that was born after spiritual energy returned. Part of these entities transformed into deformed monsters that prey on humans without any mercy, and another part appears in the form of unnatural disasters that kill everyone around them, without distinguishing between one person and another, and divide the path randomly. And likewise, they create new contamination zones whenever they move. If they are not eliminated, they will gain destructive characteristics in a terrifying way, and will continue preying on humans without any mercy. After that, Sue returns to the city, and the sky is filled with lightning unnaturally. Suddenly she receives a notification that reads, "Red alert and warning of severe thunderstorm. Citizens are advised not to go out except in extreme necessity, and to exercise extreme caution." Then another warning appears regarding the Yuhuang Mountain tourist area, saying it is exposed to danger, high floods, and because of that it has been completely closed, and they warn anyone from heading there. All the people are looking at the sky in fear because they have never seen a storm like this before. Then Fang focuses and says to himself, "What is this terrifying concentration of lightning energy?" But what caught my attention is that the center of this storm is there in the middle of the mountain. What I said? Then he decides to move himself and go toward the storm center, and when he arrives, a notification appears from the system telling him, "New contamination zone discovered at Yuhuang Mountain." It tells him that the mountain height is 1,545 meters, and is considered one of the most famous tourist landmarks in the city, but strangely the contamination level there is unknown. Despite all these warnings and all these dangers, Fang actually arrives there calmly. At the same time, we see the organization director sitting in the meeting hall with his voice loud saying, "The spiritual energy concentration test at Yuhuang Mountain shows the danger there is increasing at a terrifying speed, so he confirms they must close the area immediately and deal with it as a new contamination zone." What makes the situation more dangerous is that he says the matter is urgent and serious, to the degree that made him summon Sue, even while she was working on another mission. Then Sue enters the meeting, and all eyes are on her as she says in a steady voice, despite the tension, "Currently, there is no way to climb the mountain because the thunder energy has reached the level of explosions, and the place is officially classified as a Level A contamination zone. Based on the indicators, we are talking about the possibility that the mountain reaches S classification within just 1 hour, so the situation is out of control, and they must implement the emergency plan immediately." But she also adds, while raising her gaze to the screen, that all the data collected by the explorers who went there before confirms that there is not one explorer who was able to approach this area. Not even she personally was able to do so. Even the explorers from the Devil's Axe category, who have 3 stars, calculations say the mortality rate, if they enter there, is 100% without any discussion. At the same time, one of the energy meeting members says firmly, "We must close the mountain immediately and deploy patrols to prevent any person from attempting to climb." The director responds saying, he agrees because the threat must be cut from its roots, because this area has become a contamination zone, and the spiritual energy problem in it is still escalating violently, so we must prevent anyone from approaching it until the concentration of this energy decreases a little, and we return to make a new assessment of the place. At the same moment, with no sound except the thunder striking in the sky, we see Fang standing in front of the mountain, but he is steady and doesn't shake as he looks ahead and says to himself, "Fortunately, I have the breathing technique and this helped me be able to withstand the thunder energy spread in the air. But this is not enough, and I must start so I can extract the purest energy of this type. The energy here is violent and unstable, and if I want to be able to reach maximum benefit, I must climb to the storm center up at the peak." Then he continues his words in the same tone saying, "After the return of spiritual energy to the world, humans were not prepared at all for this wave, and when this explosion happened, no one could control or understand the new situation, and the food chain was overturned, and humans who were at the top became at the bottom. We became the weakest among creatures that began evolving terrifyingly. Even creatures that were simple like rats or rabbits can turn into nightmares in the future. And this is because we're not talking about just spiritual energy, this is a comprehensive change in the laws of nature and the universe itself. The universe itself has started generating creatures that threaten our existence completely." Fang looks at the sky feeling that danger has come very close, and we find him saying, "True, I have now reached mastery of the breathing technique and also managed to develop the flaming sword style, which combines sun and internal fire characteristics. But still, this is not enough. All I did last time was spend writing points to merge these characteristics into my sword, and manage to enhance the sun characteristic and make the sword destructive in attack only. But the more I rely on the weapon, the weaker I will be if the weapon breaks or disappears, so I must be stronger myself without complete dependence on anything else so I can face the creatures that might emerge from the heart of this energy. The thunder energy here is terrifying, but at the same time, it is a perfect opportunity I use to strengthen my body again and break the limits I have reached. I want to be stronger, not just to fight, but to be able to live amid the transformations happening, and the things coming are harsher than what passed. I must search for my opportunity in the heart of danger. I must find real power amid this madness, or I will have no other choice but to wait for death amid the disasters surrounding me. Fang tries to move as he advances through the terrifying storm that destroys everything around it. Suddenly, he grips his sword tightly and raises it to the sky to try to counter the lightning bolts falling from every direction. But contrary to his expectations, the resistance is violent and powerful, in a terrifying way, stronger than anything else he could imagine, and the whole place becomes a crushing thunder whirlpool difficult to breathe in, and every step he takes makes him feel like he's walking inside a hurricane. We find Fang saying to himself, "This extreme thunder characteristic is not just power, this is real heavenly punishment, and it exerts tremendous pressure on me, and my body has started breaking from inside, and my energy is also collapsing. So how can I subdue a power like this and control it?" The closer he gets to the storm's heart, everything increases in violence and terror, and we find him saying to himself, calm down, you must think clearly. The system needs energy of the same type to be able to interact." But then Fang screams saying, "I finally found it," and begins activating his breathing technique and dives into the storm's heart. At this moment, a fiery collision occurs between his power and the thunderstorm, and this tremendous thunder energy out of control strikes his body from every direction, to the degree that his blood begins coming out of his mouth from the pressure on his body. Despite this, he pulls himself together and says in a weak voice but determined, "I must endure, I must reach the peak, no matter what happens." But the current he was facing was violent to the degree that just breathing made him feel his muscles were tearing, and his nerves exploding, and his whole body was breaking from inside. This thunder energy had the sole goal of killing him and erasing him from existence, but he continues and remains silent, and continues against it. In the midst of this moment, the system appears and tells him, "Very high thunder energy discovered, and preparation in progress." At the same moment, the rest of the citizens in the middle of the city feel an unnatural trembling, and their eyes look at the sky that is colored with a strange color, and something like meteors appears in the middle falling from above, and people are looking at each other in fear and anxiety, and one of them says, "Could this be lightning? We've never seen anything this size before." They keep watching the scene in terror, not knowing if this lightning bolt will destroy the entire city completely or not. At the same time, we return to Fang, whose body is almost flying amid a terrifying whirlpool of energy, entering around his body glowing like lightning sparks, and the system appears before him as a huge message telling him, "You have obtained royal thunder energy, and it has been deposited in your heavenly heart, and your body has been strengthened in sacred fire to become like a king." The message continues telling him, "You have also obtained 5 writing points." We find Fang looking around himself, feeling that his body has become different, not like it was before. It has become completely different, and he feels as if his muscles are opening anew, and his nerves are igniting, and his blood itself is moving inside his veins, as if it were electricity. The thunder characteristic he obtained is not just any characteristic. This is a superior characteristic with destructive offensive capabilities, and what distinguishes it from the sun characteristic is that it's not just explosive power. No, this also strengthens the body and makes it transform into a lightning being, and the attack is at superhuman speeds, and defense is like covering your body with thunder armor. Fang remembers the legends he used to read about practitioners in ancient times, when spiritual energy was everywhere, and they would absorb lightning into their bodies for years and years, until they transform their bodies into real mountains that don't break or die. He closes his eyes and truly feels he has become part of this thunder power, and we find him saying to himself, "Thunder is my spear and shield." Suddenly he opens his eyes, continuing in a very deep voice, "I now understand that thunder power is not just destructive power. No, this is also purification and a new beginning." At the same time, the system window appears before Fang again, telling him that this is pure decisive thunder power dedicated to punishing all evil and corruption, and grants great and multiplied damage, and beyond that penetrates defenses and purifies every trace of impure energy. A question appears from the system asking him, "Do you want to consume writing points to merge this characteristic into your weapon?" At the same time, Fang stands for a while as if thinking aloud, saying, "Should I merge this characteristic into the sword too? I mean, surely this thunder characteristic will make it much stronger and more durable, and its attack will be devastating. But thunder is pure in a different way from the sun characteristic currently in the sword. If conflict happens between them, this might ruin the sword's balance, or even affect the purity of the energy inside it. Besides that, excessive merging of characteristics might make the sword collapse over time. So he decides to keep the thunder characteristic in his right hand, instead of merging it into the sword. He begins drawing all this energy around his body entirely toward his palm, and this energy was moving violently, as if it was not satisfied to enter easily, but suddenly it transforms appropriately and enters Fang's hand, as if it has become accepting of his presence, and merges with him completely. At the same time, he feels an extremely intense heat penetrating his body and stirring his blood like a continuous lightning bolt working inside him, but it doesn't hurt him. On the contrary, it makes him feel closer to lightning than ever before. On the second day at the mountaintop, Su was climbing with Major Han from the army, and both of them were standing looking at the ground that was still affected by what happened yesterday. We find Su looking around and saying to him, "The situation isn't what we were imagining because the energy concentration in this area dropped dramatically, from extremely high energy to a light pollution level in less than 3 hours only. This is almost impossible. But there are still strange things present. There are no electrical charges remaining in the air, yet lightning was still hovering around the place." Han hears her and says, "Does this mean someone came here and explored the area before us?" Su approaches the ground and touches it with her hands while closing her eyes, trying to sense any energy or trace. But after a few moments, she opens them and says, "No, I can't determine its characteristics or even the time spent here because the rain that fell at night covered almost everything." Han tells her, "Most likely, whoever came here arrived late and could have come before we closed the road at 7 p.m. or passed by us without us noticing." Su is surprised and says, "Why do you say 7 o'clock specifically?" Han replies, "The phenomenon started happening around 6 o'clock and the gates were officially closed at 7. So if someone went up after that, they'd have to be either a very good infiltrator or have a way to sneak in without leaving any trace, because this mountaintop witnessed the strongest thunderstorm that happened exactly at 7 p.m. What makes it even stranger is that all the association's devices that monitor strange phenomena didn't predict what was happening then, because all their indicators said this pollution would gradually increase until reaching maximum level at dawn, S level. But strangely, after 8 p.m., there was a sudden and massive drop in energy flow density, like someone cut the power themselves or absorbed it completely. This is besides the electrical charges that were still remaining in the air, indicating that massive thunder power ignited in the place. Then Han continues speaking in a serious tone while looking at the sky. "I feel that the person who entered this area isn't ordinary. They have power connected to thunder, which allowed them to withstand the lightning that was here and struck the mountain. Lightning that should have erased any living being it touched from existence. This means this person didn't just survive the supernatural forces, they also used this phenomenon to increase their power as if it was a golden opportunity for them. And I don't think we can ignore someone with this kind of power. We need to search for them immediately. From now on, they'll have a temporary code name, the Tyrant, because if this person becomes a threat to society, the disaster will be huge, and no one will be able to stand against them." After that, he goes to the association director and tells him, "We still have hope that we can find and recruit this energy as soon as possible." He decides to keep this news secret and verify things quickly. At the same time, the director tells him, "We also have someone we're trying to reach to recruit them." He asks Su to present her report about this person. But as soon as she hears this, she becomes very tense inside and tries to hide it, saying that this person is the same one who purified the anomaly and pollution at the Northern University gate. She continues speaking while feeling her voice might betray her at any moment, thinking to herself, "I'm finished. I can't reveal his identity, and if they suspect for even one moment, everything will collapse." She tries to control herself and continues speaking naturally, saying she tried to contact him recently, but unfortunately, his movements were very mysterious, and she even saw the body of the mutated rabbit monster this person killed before. She adds that he probably has a burning solar attribute, so she'll try to get closer to him and see how he managed to execute this technique at the Northern Association gate. She thinks to herself, "I have to show them that everything is under control so they don't discover anything wrong." Indeed, the director is convinced by her words and tells her, "Well done. We need young people like you to make progress." Su thanks him while trying to hide her anxiety. Then Han goes to the director and says, "We need to spread some misleading news about natural disasters and what's happening around us. This will be enough temporarily to keep people busy and not focus on precise details." He also tells him, "We have to promote the idea that spiritual energy increases naturally due to climate changes or earth shifts, because if the truth comes out, many people with bad intentions might exploit the situation and try to use this information for their benefit. This could cause chaos that no one could ever stop." After some time on the second day, Fang feels a completely different sensation inside his body. Everything had changed, but what caught his attention most was his right hand, which had obviously undergone complete physical transformation. Thunder traits appeared on it very strongly, as if it had become the strongest part of his entire body, with a huge increase in power to the point where he felt his whole body might break from the energy now stored within him. He felt he was finally approaching a new breakthrough point, and all this made him hysterically excited. But what truly amazed him most was the thunder attribute itself, which throughout its existence had been violent, terrifying, and very difficult to control. But now, after planting it inside him, it became like an obedient cat he could control with unnatural ease, as if it had become part of him, listening to him, and following his orders without objection. This is besides remembering the first time I used the Golden Sun technique. Pain was unbearable, and my whole body was literally burning. Every cell in my body was being scorched. But apparently my body absorbed a large part of this power, which made it weaken, or at least come under my control. The system now indicates the thunder attribute, and confirms its effect increased by 300% against evil anomalous creatures. This means anything of this type that approaches him will be hurt in seconds. Fang was very excited because he would finally try this power himself, but in the middle of this excitement, all his thinking suddenly stops when his phone rings, with consecutive notification sounds annoyingly, indicating something big had happened now. Fang quickly grabs his phone, thinking, since the last incident, I've been keeping all news from forums at the top of my watch list, so anything that happens or any warning reaches me immediately. What reached him now was an emergency warning from the country's national union, supervised by the Shia organization, which issues official warnings to citizens during disasters or dangerous threats. He starts reading the alerts with his eyes, while feeling something unnatural is happening to him. We find Fang sitting in front of his phone with news about a chemical factory explosion on the city outskirts. Fortunately, there were no injuries, but air pollution occurred. Suddenly, a shot of the screen made Fang think deeply about the cold aura that filled the scene, which was disturbingly familiar to him. Within seconds of thinking, he managed to remember because this was the same aura he saw in his previous life when evil creatures invaded the world. He remembered the terrifying moments when these monsters attacked residents and how unnaturally strong they were. No one could stop them. These creatures were originally ordinary plants or animals, but after mutation, everything changed, and they gained insane consciousness and terrifying perception, hunting, and killing abilities. They loved dark places because they could merge with any shadow around the victim before pouncing on them. We find Fang saying determinedly, "We have to stop them before they evolve. Tonight especially, the time has come for the test, and my decisive strike that can double damage by 300% in real combat." At the same time, elsewhere in the city, the destroyer squad was spread through city streets, standing in a semi-abandoned neighborhood. One team member speaks over radio, "This is headquarters. The target is anomaly number 7, known as Night Candle. We temporarily lost its trail. Its known ability is merging with darkness and completely hiding itself. It can emit loud sounds when anyone approaches and has a clear tendency to eat humans. These nighttime conditions are perfect for it to come out and hunt." The center quickly responds with a decisive, direct voice. Night Assembly sent additional data and issued a B priority extermination order. Required elimination within 12 hours. Ensure your safety before anything else. The destroyer squad leader was hearing this report from headquarters and thinking in a low voice, 12 hours? Well, it's not quick time, but it's the best they can do now. It's about 9 p.m. now, and anomalous incidents are appearing everywhere. Even the big headquarters can't keep up with handling them. Suddenly he noticed that the nearby area had agents from the Spiritual Energy Farmers Association, and team leader Sue was present there. He had heard about her special achievements that were being talked about. He immediately asked his team to contact her and request her support, even temporarily. Not long after, she actually arrived and stood before them with a challenging gleam in her eyes, saying, "You're the reason I'm working overtime today." Before anyone could reply, one team member says, "The night candle we're talking about has started devouring people now, so this isn't just about your overtime." We find Sue looking at him and saying, "Is this how you treat people you ask for help? It's clear you're such an elite squad that you don't need anyone's help, so my team and I will leave." Her steps began moving away, but one of her team members whispered to her, "I didn't know you were this harsh." "What will it?" Another member of her team replied, while looking toward the horizon. "That'll be their problem then. We also have a mission that's no less dangerous." At that same moment, the destroyer squad leader asked her to stop and said to her with a serious voice, "I apologize for my attitude, but I'm begging you to help me monitor Night Candle. You're the one who knows his danger best, and without your tracking skills, this mission will be extremely difficult for us. And if we have to kill him and you get rid of us, that's fine, but I'll never forgive myself if any of the city residents die." Indeed, Sue agreed to help them, and the mission began immediately. Using her tracking skills, she was able to locate the target, anomaly number 7, nicknamed Night Candle, a strange creature that loves darkness and humidity and feeds on human flesh. When they reached the location, all the team's eyes were focused, and Sue said firmly, "Now Destroyer Team, begin the operation. Target is under surveillance. Spread out." As soon as they spotted Night Candle, it started moving quickly and tried to retreat, but the team prepared themselves and surrounded it from all directions. One of the fighters lunged at it, but suddenly Night Candle let out an extremely loud scream that shook the place. Sue, trying to ease the tension, said with a slightly playful tone, "Watch out for its sound waves, try to avoid them." But at that same moment, Night Candle launched a violent attack with a dark energy wave that exploded from its body, forcing the entire team to step back. The team leader, trying to steady himself on the ground, thought to himself, "Just as I expected, Night Candle is extremely powerful. If I hadn't confronted it at the right time, all my bones would have been shattered by this destructive force and terrifying dark characteristics. If this had stayed in the city a little longer, it would have caused a real disaster." At this moment, Night Candle began emitting an extremely powerful aura, and when Sue saw it, she immediately understood that it was trying to dig underground to escape, so she started moving toward it, intending to stop it. But one of her team members stopped her and said seriously, "This aura is dark with corrosive properties, and anything that touches it will corrode immediately. Unfortunately, we don't have an antidote strong enough to overcome it. Even if it manages to corrode the ground, that doesn't mean it can carve a direct escape route." So Sue had to step back a bit and said to herself, "The important thing now is not to interfere with the Destroyer Team's movement because they have it surrounded." Indeed, the team leader ordered them to increase their caution, but Night Candle suddenly lunged and tried to escape. At the same time, the leader shouted, "Don't let it escape, go quickly and chase it." Night Candle began running at extremely high speed with the team chasing it, and everywhere it passed, the spiritual energy increased strangely. Sue, sitting and watching this situation from atop one of the buildings with an expert's gaze, noticed the significant increase in spiritual energy and issued an order to her team, "Stay outside the range of its spiritual energy, and I'll move inside with the Destroyer Team." She indeed joined them, and they tracked Night Candle until they reached an abandoned factory. There, Sue asked them to search for the spiritual energy focal point first, and pulled out a watch-like device in her hands. At the same time, the leader asked her, "Is this the new auxiliary device developed by the association?" Sue told him, "Yes, exactly." The device showed that the maximum anomaly level an average squad could handle was only 50, and Night Candle's current anomaly rate was 48. But suddenly the indicator began rising at a terrifying speed until it reached 80, and was still continuously increasing. At that same moment, Sue understood that the indicator had risen not because of Night Candle, but because there was more than one anomaly in the place. Suddenly she screamed loudly, "It's clear that Night Candle intentionally brought us here for a specific purpose. Retreat immediately. We won't be able to stay here any longer. Now we must head toward the main door." She wasted no time and unleashed massive destructive energy toward the main gate while shouting, "This way." But before they could reach it, the entire place filled with strange poisonous gas emerging from anomalies in the form of huge and extremely terrifying snakes with shiny black skin and eyes glowing hellish red. Sue immediately felt the poison penetrating her body, and her 5 senses began gradually weakening. Her knees gave out, and she fell to the ground, asking in a broken voice, "Are you all okay?" But silence dominated the situation, and sadly she said to herself, "No one is answering." She was the only person present in this abandoned factory, and despite the feeling of isolation, she was sure they were still nearby but clearly unable to communicate with her, and she was also unable to reach them. At the same time, the bitter truth hit her. Night Candle had managed to trap them in its snare. She looked around the place with half-closed eyes, saying to herself, "This place belongs to another anomaly, and I can sense it slightly, but it's terrifying. It's most likely a giant snake." Unlike Night Candle's dark trait, this black poisonous fog began entering us from the moment we entered the factory. We smelled this gas, and it began paralyzing our senses and draining our spiritual energy at a terrifying speed. If we try to use our spiritual power to attack, we'll destroy ourselves in the shortest time. Finally, my energy is about to run out, and if I remain without energy to protect me, I'll turn into a lifeless corpse. But what is this anomaly? It's not just deadly smart, it also has strange playing and deception abilities, and amuses itself with us as if we're a game. Lying on the ground, I said desperately, "Is this really how my end will be?" My eyes were fixed on the factory ceiling, and darkness covered the place. Suddenly a massive explosion thundered, blowing off the entire roof, and from amid the dust our hero Fang descended with heavy steps, and stood before the anomaly and the giant snake, his eyes gleaming as he said loudly, "So this is the time of the anomaly of the capital of darkness? Finally." the giant snake attacked him quickly, but Fang moved in 1 second and dodged its strike. He barely caught his breath when he found another monster attacking him. Fang looked at it and said to himself, I now see two anomalies, one hunts the prey and the other finishes it off. Both work together with terrifying coordination, and the spiritual energy here is heavy and suffocating. At that same moment, Fang extended his hand and unleashed tremendous power. An aura of fear covered the place, and his voice became like thunder as he said, You've tried the power of thunder before. Well, now it's time for you to see how you'll face my fire. We see Fang charging at them with a terrifying aura, as if hell had opened before them. Fang pounced on them with a flaming sword and struck the giant snake with an extremely powerful blow that split it in half. But strangely, the snake rejoined as if nothing had happened. Then Fang thought to himself and said, As I expected, it has a trump card it's hiding for the right moment. The moment I saw them, I felt that the snake's dark aura was heavier and more dangerous than Night Candle's aura. So even though he activated his internal flame power, he withdrew the fire at the last moment and used his blade to gather and direct thunder power directly to the snake's body. Night Candle was indeed a dark, deceptive, bloodthirsty anomaly that could harm 1 or 2 people whose power was still weak, but compared to this snake, it's nothing. The snake's scales are extremely hard, its intelligence is very high, it develops its attacks quickly, and its calmness before striking makes it deadly. Moreover, its poison can completely paralyze a body without the victim feeling it. We see Fang feeling the poison sting spreading through his body, but using the golden sun breathing technique, he began circulating his body, and the fiery yang began dissolving the poison. The breathing technique was treating the damage, and the thunder power was purifying him. Both together made his body feel pain before the second strike reached him, and he also gained early warning before anything reached him. As for the rest of the team, even if they had protective abilities, this poison was difficult to remove from the body easily. The snake wasn't just strong, it had become a fierce beast, and thanks to the 3rd-level ghost axe at least, and with the plan it executed with Night Candle, this trap was specifically made to catch the best vanguard hunters. It had surely eaten many beginners before they arrived, but no matter what degree of evil or savagery it possessed, it would now turn to ash, because this internal flame was extremely powerful. But thunder power would be more effective, and then it would show that I had arrived and become stronger than the creatures and main team warriors, and he began using his fire power, but at that same moment, he noticed Sue's presence as she was suffering from the damage the poison had caused her. When he saw her, he recognized her and said to himself, This is the same girl from the Farmers Association, and I think her name was Sue. Fang began approaching her, saying, Stop pretending because you're not good at it, and your death act isn't convincing at all. He couldn't believe he would meet her again by such coincidence among all people. But she said to him, I was really choking from that bad air a moment ago, then I regained consciousness again. I wasn't acting. At the same time, Fang approached her more and said, You're very strong because all your teammates ran out of energy and lost consciousness. But you're the opposite. You managed to maintain a little of your defensive aura. If you didn't have the willpower, you wouldn't have been able to endure even the smell of blood and burning flesh. At the same time, Sue thanked him while saying to herself, I never expected he would notice the aura protecting me. But I don't know how to understand how he managed to defeat Night Candle or the giant snake. Sue was talking to him while hiding her eyes, but Fang said to her, There's no need to cover your eyes. Since you managed to keep the secret and didn't reveal my identity, you can normally open them. This statement made Sue surprised by his gentle manner, and she felt this was the kindest time she had met him. He said to her, It's late now. Tell them that you and your team are safe, and I'll leave now. She tried to stop him, but Fang continued on his way, saying, There's no need for me to tell you what to do. Yes, I'll leave you to clean up this place. He left her and walked through the same opening he had made in the ceiling, saying to himself, Lucky for me she didn't notice me absorbing the dark element. The cold, slimy feeling I got from them was so disgusting that I felt I might not be able to complete it. Maybe my body rejected absorbing this dark aura, so even the system didn't want to interact. At this moment, Sue was trying to wake up the team leader and told them they had been exposed to poison. He looked around and found the monsters' bodies thrown on the ground, burned. His face was full of confusion, not understanding anything that had happened. He said to her, What happened here? Where did this tremendous power of pure yang energy come from? Sue said to him, As you can see, one of the farmers came to help us, and he's most likely the person I was targeting. My original mission was to determine his identity, a farmer with a high-level trait, which is the yang trait. But I'm still not sure about this information. His identity is still a mystery to me. The truth is, he was watching me because he knows I was watching him, but this time he's the one who saved us. At this moment, one of the team members spoke with amazement. What kind of power can kill this giant snake and night candle at the same time? Happen if someone actually dies? But the commander quickly intervenes and says, "Where is the body of Night Candle? We must first get rid of this mess and send the rest to the association." But as soon as he approaches the beast's corpse, he suddenly stops in place and feels an enormous spiritual energy and screams while saying, "What is this monstrous energy? Su, you told me its attribute was yang, but this remaining electrical energy is abnormally strong." Then Su approaches and focuses on the corpse while saying, "Is this the body of Night Candle? Because the thunder energy here is very pure, and its level is very high." At that moment, the commander says to her, "Don't tell me there were two high-level cultivators here. One of them killed the snake, and the other killed Night Candle before they left together." But Su says to herself, "That's not what happened, so how do I explain to him? But if I say there was only one person who was able to get rid of both beasts by himself, because if I said that, no one would believe me. How can there be one person who has two first-class attributes? Just one high-level attribute makes its owner a genius, but for one fighter to possess both high-level attributes is something we've never heard of before. And this person's power is terrifying to this degree. What's the secret that makes Fang possess two first-class powers? And how was he able to merge them in this terrifying way? I wonder if Su will decide to report Fang's truth to the association, or keep the secret to herself. And are there stronger powers and beasts than what Fang has faced so far? And how will the association and the official team deal with having someone with this power among them? Then cars from the association come, and Su says I left someone from the team standing outside, because if I stayed inside for a long time, they would report to the association. And the association sent an investigation team to the site, and they were coming thinking we were dead. And two from the team run to Su, and the first one tells her, "We thought you were dead, and we lost our leader." And the second one tells her, "I don't know what I would have done if you had sacrificed yourself." And then we go to the association team, and they're investigating. And one of them says the main objective is to purify the remaining spiritual energy, and analyze the traces, and reconstruct the battle scene, and then send the report to the association. And he tells the leaders present, based on comparing the battle traces, both the attack style and killing method indicate that the person who killed these creatures is 99%, one person. So one of the leaders tells him one person who has both attributes. We seem to have made a mistake. Yes, because any one of these creatures could have killed us. So another leader says, yes, he finished them off in a moment, even though we're at Ghost Axe level. So Su tells them the target I was monitoring appeared. I have data updates, I must report to headquarters. And she calls the headquarters chief and tells him the monitoring results. Say that the Tyrant and the North Kincheng University Gate are both my monitoring targets. So the chief tells her, suspend the mission temporarily. The person who saved you, eliminated the anomaly, and protected the area. And this proves he's not an enemy to the association, and not our enemy. My opinion differs from Lao Han's opinion. And for your safety. And so there's a good impression about the association from the Tyrant. Don't contact him now. So Su tells him, I have a guess about what happened on the mountain before his promotion. So the chief tells her, what is it? So Su tells him, I felt a strong aura in his area at that time. I said he might have a spiritual weapon, but that's impossible. But now, after I confirmed he has two attributes, so the chief tells her he possesses a spiritual weapon. It's not possible for him to have one, regardless of his talent, without resources or external support. It's not possible for him to have one. And the investigation team found no traces of a third spiritual energy at the incident site. So Su tells him when I interacted with him, I felt spiritual energy of the sun type. I think the weapon's energy comes from his own power, and if he was at the soul formation level, theoretically, he could achieve this through his own power. So Su thinks and says soul formation at the world level. Few have been able to reach it, so the chief tells her, but if this person possesses a third spiritual power, this would change everything in the world of the awakened, because research says that different spiritual energies conflict inside the body, and this makes coexistence difficult, and no awakened person has possessed three spiritual energies. And if he possessed a spiritual weapon, and we failed to discover the third energy, this would be a good thing. I hope that awakened ones who have great power won't be enemies to humanity. And then we go to Fang, who's coming out of the bathroom, and he's thinking and saying, all right, less than a year remains before the appearance of spiritual energy, but strange changes and abnormal phenomena appear everywhere, and there are awakened ones who started self-training. After opening the interface between the body and the spiritual energy world, They can feel the world's changes better, like what exists in the underground river, even without official recognition from the state. Most of them already reached the 1-star Ghost Axe level through individual training, and after the state showed good intentions towards the Awakened, this means that official and unofficial forces are in a relatively stable exploratory phase, and the anomalies are still under government control, and no major conflicts occurred between the Awakened. And although the state established the Spiritual Energy Training Association, it hasn't been announced yet. Now people are talking about insecurity and the changes happening, and it's clear that the government is trying to balance between protecting people and issuing warnings. But this is the problem, because the state lacks confidence in releasing the training era. And there are many people, and if they announce this, there would be chaos and collapse, and this would lead to mass casualties, and the current situation of recognized awakened ones. They don't have enough power to maintain order. Internal and external crises would destroy the current system. That's why the state's gradual approach is good. People's panic and fear of ghosts. What I'm worried about is that the anomaly rate is developing rapidly. What I faced today was an example of anomaly. Dark, the natural enemy of the awakened. After touching the black fog, I confirmed they belong to shadows, and they form a dark subclass not acceptable to all, but from anomalies smarter than beasts. They don't just eat human bodies, awakened bodies are treasures to them. Sometimes they work together to hunt awakened ones, but they're not as terrifying as what I saw before. They could destroy a country if I hadn't followed them. How many teams like this, and those trying to recruit, would have died? Just a subtype and this dangerous. And the dark energy itself poses a threat. If it's not absorbable, and I can absorb it if conditions are met. And if dark energy was this effective against humans, I could control it. And it would be ideal. I now possess golden sun breathing, from yang energy and lightning, refining from thunder energy, and fire sword technique, a subtype of yang. These are not just high techniques, but also compatible with my techniques. At my current power at 3-star Ghost Axe level, few awakened can match me, but this isn't enough. Suddenly Fang's phone rings and he sees who it is. He finds it's his aunt, and he wonders why she called him suddenly, and he answers her. So the aunt tells him, your cousin will study in your area, and I won't feel safe if I left her in a hotel alone. Can she stay with you? So Fang gets annoyed and tells her, my cousin. So Fang thinks and says, all I know about my cousin is that she's first in her class and loves studying. So Fang tells her, okay, let her come. So the aunt tells him, I'll give her the address, and she'll come to you, and I'll send you a gift. So Fang thanks her, and the cousin is sitting in the room, and she's looking at the news on the computer, and she's surprised when she sees there was an incident in the city she was going to, and her mother comes and tells her, I booked for you. So her daughter tells her, I wanted to stay in the hotel. So her mother tells her, no, you'll stay with your cousin, and her mother keeps giving her advice, so her daughter gets her out of the room. And then we see Fang's cousin walking, looking at the map for Fang's house location, and then she arrives at the place. Then Fang comes out of the house and finds his cousin, so he tells her, you're Lin, and she enters to sit with Fang, and he tells her, you came to participate in the summer camp. So Lin tells him yes. So Fang tells her, if you need anything, call me. So Lin tells him thank you. So Fang gives her the key and tells her, I'll go to my room and your room is opposite my room. So Lin tells him, I'll be under your care these days. So Fang leaves her and enters his room. So Lin thinks and says, my cousin seems nice and won't interfere with what I'm doing. And Fang thinks and says she doesn't know how to hide anything. When she was sitting next to me, I felt an aura coming from her. She might be awakened, and she might not be here for the summer camp, and she came for. And Lin talks to someone she knows, and tells her about what happened with Fang. And Lin thinks and says, since I just arrived, I won't start training. If Fang discovers, it will be hard for me to explain to him. And after 3 days, Fang says, I didn't know that when I live with my cousin I won't be able to train. Meditation sessions can be interrupted at any moment, and even golden sun training can be discovered. Because the light is visible, but the worst part is, and we see Lin preparing dinner for Fang, and preparing food for him. So Fang tells her, you got tired today, I'll wash the dishes. So she tells him, no need I'm staying here for free, this is the least I can do. And Fang thinks and says Lin is polite and also does housework. But the reason I want her to lower her guard from me is to know her true nature. And suddenly Lin's phone rings, so Fang tells her, your friend sent you a message, go talk to her, and I'll go back to my room. So Lin takes the phone and enters her room and answers her friend, and tells her, what are you saying? The great change of earth and sky will happen again tomorrow. When? 3 p.m. Don't worry, I'll be there. Okay, at the entrance of Yanghu town, and Fang is standing outside the window, listening to Lin's words. And Fang thinks and says, isn't Yanghu a tourist city an hour away by car? And I knew Lin was awakened in spiritual energy revival, and with her current level she won't notice. But she's still in high school, and reached the 2nd level, and about to reach the 3rd level, and her talent made her have a strange personality, meaning her joining this summer camp wasn't real. The real goal is the great change, and she heard about it, that's why she came here. And this great change is an opportunity for new technique, to strengthen my power from it. I want to know what is the characteristic of the great change in Yanghu, and Yang moves afterwards, and Lin notices there was a shadow and feels someone was watching her. The next day, we go to Yangzhou town, and Lin goes to meet her friend. Her friend tells her, "You were staying with your cousin who was handsome." So Lin tells her, "He's nice and just a regular person, not the type of guys you'd like online." Then the girl who talks to Lin online shows up, and her name is the Widow. She tells them, don't forget that Lin classified herself before as just a regular person. After that, we see someone sitting and saying, since we're all gathered here, let's get into the main topic. So Lin tells him, hey, this girl is here, but he tells her, no, it's just us who are here. The Widow tells them, hey, she's used to being mysterious, we're used to this, let's go. Fang is sitting and watching them from afar, thinking and saying, Fang, it looks like my cousin's team. They're also keeping a low profile. The weakest among them is at Ghost Axe 2-star level, and the guy talking is at Ghost Axe 3-star level. They have someone strong on the team, but he's not with them. On the mountain in this city, a vine suddenly appeared hanging from the sky, like the beanstalk in the fairy tale. Plants are appearing randomly in areas around Yangzhou, without a fixed schedule. This contradicts all previous knowledge of the Awakened. Although it's a great change, it has nothing to do with weather, ground collapse, and surface reshaping. This strange thing appears out of nowhere, moving quietly without any damage. No lightning or burning sun, just moving quietly. The team reaches the place where the great change is happening. When the Widow sees what's happening, she's amazed and says, if I hadn't seen it myself, I wouldn't have believed it. The girl with them tells Lin, we can't get any closer. When I got near it, I felt something wasn't right. You saw the rumors on the internal forum, and I had a friend who tried to touch these plants. They were also awakened stronger than me, but after that, they all disappeared. I feel like we're going to die too, and I thought I could go back with the loot, or I'd turn to bones and no one would find me. But as soon as I saw this in front of me, I felt terror. I had a feeling I was facing a heavenly transformation, high-level lands, powerful transformation, and I wanted to withdraw. Lin tells her, yeah, we really feel that way. In the wooden vines, we feel the destruction. I feel like I drowned in the river of time and lost everything. That's why we feel anxiety and severe disturbance, as if it wants to swallow our vitality. Lin holds her hands and tells her, but this is the path of martial arts pioneers. Fang is standing above watching what's happening, thinking and saying, what is this dead and gloomy aura? I've seen many phenomena, but except for the darkness of the dark attribute, these vines are the most disturbing. Choosing to train here takes courage. Although they're plants that symbolize life, they give a feeling of bending and submission. They don't look alive, they look like dead things that lost their spiritual energy. Lin tells her team, we don't have time to think. Since it's dangerous, let's just sense the energy here. Move within sight range and don't go far. They sit close to each other, and Lin thinks, we'll be safer this way. And Lin sits and trains. Fang stands thinking and saying, they're being cautious, sensing energy, and training at a distance that's not too far or close. She's definitely academically superior because she calculated precisely the ideal spot to get the maximum benefit. Will she advance to the 3rd star? She reached the 3rd star this quickly. Lin's talent is exceptional. The Widow and her friend are surprised by Lin's ability, but the plant roots start moving. When one of them sees them, he tells them, the vines are moving toward us. The Widow tells him, hey, did she discover us from this distance? She starts grabbing them one by one, and the rest of the team runs away. Lin is still sitting with the vine around her. The Widow tells her friend, we're not leaving without Lin. Her friend tells her, what do you want me to do? Use my spiritual energy? She's the one who said we should train here. She's advancing without noticing she's stepping on our lives. One of the team members tells the Widow, if we don't move, we'll all die here. We all don't know each other and met by chance. But the Widow hits him and tells him, you go, but I won't abandon her. The two run away and the Widow goes to save her. We see Fang standing and saying, Lin isn't aware of what's happening. I see that this vine's power is strong, and I don't know if I can defeat it or not. I promised my aunt I'd take care of her, and a promise I made I can't break. The Widow attacks the plants and cuts them, but the plants wrap around her. The plants break Lin's barrier, but Fang attacks with the fire sword. Lin's friends are surprised when they see him. The fire sword burns the plants, and they find that the vine stopped attacking. There's great power coming from Fang that they can't handle. They think and say, this is Yang technique. this is the only thing that can challenge the vines. Why did I think my talent was high when I reached Ghost Axe 3 stars in one day? In the country there are few pioneers. Regardless of monstrous talent, even Lin's talent doesn't exceed mine by much. If there's someone among the pioneers who has this power, then what are we? Who exactly is this person? A system message appears saying that maximum wood attribute has been discovered. Automatic creation begins, creation succeeds, and it tells him about endless life that can absorb all surrounding vitality and restore body injuries quickly. Fang thinks and says, this wood technique is powerful. As long as there's life around it, it's like a charging machine. The system tells Fang that the extracted attribute is destruction, and destruction means he can release a destructive aura, which leads to erosion of all vital force. Fang thinks and says, that's why the vine only grows in dangerous terrain. If it grew somewhere else, the vital force within a 10-mile range would all be drained. Deadly abstraction is a destructive and very dominant attribute, so it steals life force from other people. The widow thanks Fang for saving them. If you weren't here, we'd all be dead now. How can we repay what you did? Fang tells her, no need, we'll see each other again. And Fang thinks, I'm here because of the news they spread, and I was able to get the vital attribute and destruction attribute. As for the conflict between people, I need to be careful of my cousin's behavior. People's true nature is revealed in times of crisis. A team like scattered sand is far from safe when great disturbances come. The girl says, this person left quickly. The person next to her tells her, are you upset you didn't save people? Now after there's nothing left, Lin was able to reach the 3rd level. For me and you to stay in this team. Then Lin wakes up, and the person standing says, now we'll see if she had enough awareness. She'll mess things up for us. Instead of thinking about that, let's think about the person who was with us. When Lin sees the people lying on the ground, she's surprised and tells them what happened. She sees Fang's energy and thinks, this energy is from Yang element. From this distance I feel its heat. The person tells her, let me explain what happened. Later, we see Lin going back home, thinking, could there be someone with this power? She remembers the person's words telling her, this person was a monster. Although we had difficulty trying to cut the vines, he forced her to retreat with one strike. They see the vines disappearing, and Lin says, this is the fear his presence instilled. Although he left, the vine was acting normal, and there was no sign it would attack us. She then enters the house and finds Fang telling her, why do you look pale? Lin tells him, I'm tired from studying. Fang tells her, well, rest and I'll order food. Lin enters the room feeling tired, thinking, breakthrough consumes a lot of mind and spirit. Every time I use spiritual force to push the axe, I need to focus well. This is exhausting. That's why I'm no longer an ordinary person. A few days without sleep won't kill me. This training is the fate of pioneers. The world is starting to change strangely. Living like Fang an ordinary life isn't possible. A message comes from someone named Jaren, telling her, if there's any trace of that strong person who appeared, if he appears again, tell me. Lin thinks, this is the first time Jaren spoke in the group, and there's news about Fang and what he did. Fang goes out and rides his bike, thinking, Lin should now be less cautious than me, and doesn't know I'm watching her. I want to discover how to use the destruction attribute. The destruction attribute is closer to plant-type things, but it's an evil attribute. Its essence is erosion. If I put it on myself, it might have reverse results, and might conflict with the thunder attribute. The best choice would be similar to the strange ghost vine. The reason it was like that was because of spiritual energy. It chose to develop on its own, and that's what generated the destruction power. I know where I'll go. He goes to the city forest park, and Fang says, I need a plant that responds more strongly to my aura. Fang uses his power, thinking, this is how plants respond to the aura. It's disturbed, but not enough. I need something bigger. Fang looks and finds a flower in front of him. He approaches it, and it grabs his finger, then lets go. Fang thinks, this has vitality. This flower is just a plant, but when the aura touches it, it acts like a small puppy. Fang says, from the whole forest, you're the one responding to my aura with the greatest possible amount to plant the destruction attribute. He starts planting the destruction attribute, and the system asks if he wants to plant the destruction attribute. He tells it yes. Suddenly great power comes out of the flower, and suddenly he sees that the flower's appearance changed. Fang says, this strong destruction power is the devil's cunning. 3 seconds, and it would have drained a complete ring from the city forest, and it's still spreading greatly. If I continued like this, it would attract the attention of the Spiritual Energy Association, because this is the city center. The association will notice the place because of reviving spiritual energy. All these plants are in danger. After entering the park, I noticed the presence of surveillance cameras, and the atmosphere became strange and deserted. There's no presence of people who visit the park. The flower is still absorbing, able to live without roots, but the absorption became much less. Even after being removed from the soil, its spirituality is still there. Before I chose it, it was an ordinary wild flower, and maybe after I gave it the attribute, the flower started developing, as if an evolutionary constraint had been broken. He finds a warning that abnormal values are exceeding the limit. Fang thinks, I affected the monitoring systems. I need to move. Fang takes the flower and leaves. We go to the Spiritual Energy Revival Plant Research Department, and they find that abnormal values are increasing out of control. The chief tells them, put on your bracelets and go out to the park. Don't let any strangers enter. He looks at his watch and finds it's 30. He says, at the north gate of Qingqing University, the fluctuations were between 8 to 10. Only the molten dark dragon was 25. Then they go out to the park, and one of them says, when spiritual energy exceeds spirit energy anomaly, number 10, the army takes over. The park's concentration. Someone who's passed 10 before says, after discovering that the humidity and Earth's temperature are all natural, but the plants drained their vitality in seconds. What trait could cause this? We're supposed to move forward. The center should be there. Then someone calls out to them and says, no one should get any closer. This is the trait of destruction. You know about the vine, right? So one of them tells him, you mean the demonic vine that's A-level? He tells them, yeah, because of its danger it became A-level. The reason it's deadly to this extent is because it killed a large number of pioneers, and it has the destruction trait, draining the life trait from anything around it. One of them says, if you hadn't stopped me earlier I would have died. He says, yeah, awakened plants with the desertification trait create a death zone. Anything that enters dies. I read before about another desertification plant in the lands of Sha, in the ancient tree area, a giant decomposed tree polluting the entire forest. Anything that gets close gets penetrated. With the changes in heaven and earth, plant mutations can't be underestimated, and the desertification trait is the most well-known plant trait, except for the climber and the ancient tree, and now a new source of desertification. Then someone named Pioneer Han comes and tells the people there to put on your equipment and come to the contaminated area. They put on the equipment and enter the area, but they can't discover the source of desertification. Didn't he say only the climber can move? The aura decreases in 5 minutes. Concentration dropped to 25. Han tells Sue, let's go check. The force reaches them to the location, but they're shocked when they see the flower isn't there. The person next to him says, how could it be uprooted? Impossible. Han says, if someone was able to remove the flower from the desertification zone, then their identity is suspicious. Sue tells him, I know what you're thinking, but there's no trace of force, the special spirit of a higher level practitioner. Han tells her, based on examination and analysis of big data, we found information about the suspect. His movements are similar to previous mutation movements. When she sees the picture, she finds it's Fang. Han tells them all information will be sent to you. It's likely the pioneer you encountered before. How to follow up is up to your association. After 2 hours, Fang is at home, saying first time planting a flower. I can't believe I own even a flower pot. He tells it this is your home now, and now you have the desertification trait. You'll plant yourself. You're now my reliable assistant base. With desertification abilities, you'll be useful in battle and also create unexpected effects. Even if Lin sees you, she won't suspect you. In combat, ordinary appearance is the best camouflage. Power is just part of it. What's important is who holds more cards. Suddenly someone named Old calls. This is Fang's childhood friend who joined the army 3 years ago. He was Fang's classmate from elementary to middle school, and they could have continued in high school, but he joined the army. Fang talks to Old and tells him you're back. Old tells him let's go drink something together. Same old place. I have a secret to tell you. After he hangs up with Fang and sits with Sue, he says I carried out the instructions. They tell him if it wasn't him, can we guarantee his safety? The leader tells him complete your mission, and don't interfere with anything, and if it wasn't him, you gave him advice. Fang goes to sit with his friend, Old, and Fang thinks he must have gone through difficulties in the army, became more mature. Old tells Fang, throughout the 3 years I spent in the army, I felt a different life. What did you do? Fang tells him I entered a vocational college. Fang thinks when I remember my past life I never saw Old again. In chaotic times news was excluded. As a soldier, he surely sacrificed himself in battle, but this time I can change my friend's fate. Old tells him, did you face anything strange, like something from a zombie and monster movie? Fang thinks the subject is logical. Not strange that the army knows about the return of spiritual energy, but his way of asking is like he's interrogating me. Fang tells him, what are you saying? Old tells him, okay, as long as you didn't do that. I came today to tell you something, to warn you. In the near future, after a few months or a year, The certificates and wealth we value now won't be useful. Fang thinks they'll ask ordinary soldiers to stay silent, sign agreements that bind them, and prohibit the slightest leak of spiritual energy. That's why I became a suspected target by the army and am being tracked. Since Old grew up with me, he was sent to test me. Old tells Fang don't worry as long as you didn't leak a word of what I told you. Fang thinks I didn't cooperate with him, even under the risk of breaking discipline. Old kept warning me about anomalies. Then, Old got a summons. Then he apologizes to Fang and tells him I have to go because I got a mission. Fang tells him, "Is this about the return of spiritual energy? Let me come with you. Weren't you supposed to come sit with me on orders from your superiors?" Old is shocked as soon as he hears this. Fang tells him, "Don't worry. I know if this is an order from your superiors, so I know you won't hurt me." Fang thinks I want to know what the army is dealing with because it must be related to the changes in heaven and earth. But the association deals with anomalies, so what's the army's responsibility? I want to discover the truth. We go to Military Spiritual Energy Restricted Zone number 19. Fang goes with Old, and Fang thinks the spiritual energy here is a lot, and this level of concentration exceeds the contaminated zone level. Fang enters with Old and sees the soldiers fighting the monster and shooting fire at it. The monster shoots a beam at them. When Fang sees this is a fusion trait. Officer G comes and says, right, the unnatural fusion of darkness and flame made the dog monster violent, and many soldiers were injured by the monster's attack, with serious injuries. She goes to Old and tells him without permission you brought someone unrelated to the restricted zone. Old is about to speak when she tells him I want you to go form the battle line. G thinks this is Fang. He looks ordinary, and his spiritual energy is mildly active. Maybe it's not him, but there's no time to think. She tells Fang, you're now in the restricted zone. Your life and death is your responsibility, and what you see here must be a secret. Fang tells her, I understand. The monster attacks the soldiers, so G uses her weapon, and shoots the monster with a force that finishes it, but the monster gets up and becomes stronger, attacking Lee. But G hits it and tells them, don't underestimate the monster and keep your distance. We must finish it before it completes its evolution. Fang thinks good training unit, and teammates who trust each other, discipline and coordination. When they're together, they can produce power that an individual can't produce. Then a great force emerges. G tells them raise the alert level and increase the mutation degree in the restricted zone. No one is allowed to withdraw. The monster's power increases. Old tells them beware. The monster fully merged with the darkness trait and completed its mutation. The monster attacks Old and is about to finish him, but Old avoids the monster's attack. G says warning to all units. The monster in Restricted Zone 19 evolved, and its classification became from C level to B level, but suddenly Old gets tired and falls to the ground. Fang goes to check on him. Old tells him I spent spiritual energy on the monster's collar, that's why what happened to me is a reverse reaction. He tells them don't worry, we are officers and soldiers of Zone 19. G tells them regardless of tactics and methods, even at the cost of our lives, we won't let this monster leave the zone. Fang uses his power and runs at the monster. Fang attacks with all his power on the monster and hits it, causing a big explosion. One of the soldiers says, I said this is a B-level anomaly, even G can't handle it. Old says he's really Fang, he's the person we're looking for. G tells him we weren't wrong. Fang can finish the monster. Fang says this monster didn't die, and tells G and Old to go back. G thinks a B-level anomaly requires assembled forces, cooperation and preparation, and he alone can finish this. What kind of power is this? This is the ultimate form of lightning. Even in the state of Shia, this is at the peak. Even if spiritual energy fully restored its vitality, how terrifying would its development be? She sees Fang's thunder power being strong, and he can destroy the monster with a thunder beam. The soldiers are amazed by the thunder power. One soldier says, why does the lightning look more terrifying than darkness? I can withstand corrosion, but I can't handle lightning strikes. Fang goes and tells Old it's over. Old tells him you scared me to death. I wasn't expecting you to be like this. I knew you could be a pioneer. Military orders are sacred, so I brought you here. Fang tells him after 3 years you treat me like a stranger. G goes and greets Fang and thanks him. Fang greets her and tells her no need to thank me. Consider that I saved my friend. You saved Zone 19, so can you leave your phone number? I need to submit an honest report. Fang tells her no problem. Old is happy with what's happening to Fang. G tells Fang, your power surpasses the pioneers in the army, so I want you to join the army of Shia State, but by myself as a Zone Guard officer this invitation isn't enough. G thinks what's most shocking is that his mark should be in the Ghost Axe stage, and he surely reached and passed it. Fang tells her you mean you're not worthy of inviting me? G tells him yeah, there's nothing I can deny. This time I was working under orders, to understand you, not to bring you here. They'll come invite you themselves. Fang tells her it's not that serious. Actually, I respect you all. Not everyone has the courage to sacrifice themselves. I never saw soldiers fighting. You influenced me. Ji thanks him. Fang tells her if anything happens in the future, you can call me, like you worked for us, on condition it doesn't conflict with my training and doesn't restrict me. I'm leaving now, Ji tells him, old, and I need to deal with the monster's corpse, so I'll send someone with you to escort you. Fang walks and thinks now I understand what the army does. The army positions itself in dangerous areas with lots of spiritual energy. I need training on abundant energy to ensure priority for combat power, and on the other hand, to draw a defensive line between ordinary people and anomalies. Ji tells Old don't call Fang a simple person. What we saw here is simple, and that's enough to leave us behind. A pioneer who reached high level this fast shows he has unprecedented awareness, ability, and courage, and indispensable elements. Old tells Ji, shouldn't we treat Fang well? If you feel you're not suitable for recruiting him, let me as his childhood friend. Ji hits him and tells him hurry up and help me clean the field. We go to Fang, and he's sitting at home, thinking and saying, despite my identity being exposed, I only showed lightning power, and judging by their reaction, it could be something bad. At least I learned that lightning ability is rare, and might be one of a kind, and because this ability can stop darkness, the army wants it badly, so they won't threaten me to make me join them. Instead, they'll give me influence, the fastest way to power, and more advancement in information. Now I understand the division of tasks between the Army and the Spiritual Energy Association. The Army are the Night Guards, and the Spiritual Energy Association handles breaches and cleans up the fish that sneak into cities, ensuring civilian stability as much as possible, protecting ordinary people in forbidden areas by the authorities, and refers to spiritual energy neighborhoods. Also, they buy precious time for people, so they don't get displaced by anomalies from the start. It deserves to be a spiritually rich, forbidden organization. Even suppressing destructive power doesn't make me feel close to breakthrough, but after staying here for a short time, I feel spiritual energy increasing in my body, and this is a sign of approaching breakthrough. Then we go to Lin, who's walking in the street, thinking and saying, did Fang go home or not, so I can make him taste my food, and she sees power coming from afar, and says this is advancement fluctuation within Ghost Axe stage. This aura is terrifying. Could there be a pioneer who managed to break through to soul formation stage? After that, Lin sees the power took the shape of a hand, and the soldiers notice the anomaly value became high, and soul power fluctuation. Magnetic field falls 5 kilometers away, southeast of the city, and the commander tells the units it's an emergency, and to head to the target area. And Su thinks and says, how is this strong anomaly not detected until now? This number is enough to destroy a city, and the commander says there's a new pioneer who appeared in the soul formation world. This is a prelude to a major disaster, and the commander says request support from headquarters, regardless of weapons of mass destruction, deploy all equipment and advanced resources. So a soldier tells the commander the alert was cancelled and the anomaly was eliminated. This was a pioneer breakthrough. Then we go to Fang and he says, I broke through now. Apart from feeling lightness, it doesn't seem there's a big difference, and he finds there are messages on the phone, and finds people talking about the temperature that was at Qingqing University, and Fang thinks and says, Old was right, that's why I was careful of the Army and Spiritual Energy Association, and being dazzling doesn't always have good results. That's why I hid Sunflame attribute and Flame Sword skill. Then Lin comes back and tells Fang, did you eat? I brought you food. So Fang tells her thanks, leave it there. So Lin thinks and says, Fang has a straightforward personality. The only flaw is he's lazy, wants to stay home and doesn't even go to university, always on the phone, even though whether he goes or not doesn't matter for the future. But we pioneers are always moving and looking for opportunities, and we have to hide our true identity from ordinary people, and Fang lives normally, and Lin enters her room, and thinks and says in this area, a distinguished person appeared in the soul formation world. The pioneers who notice the anomaly will spread the news quickly, but it doesn't matter. I'll protect Fang since he lets me stay at home. And Fang sits holding the phone, thinking and saying last time it was high temperature, this time fire, another time sun attribute, and from the video the fire spread quickly, in trees and flower beds, and the field burned, and now it became a closed area. The video was short and cut off suddenly, and it looks much worse than the Northgate anomaly. How will the sun attribute case differ? If I want to check, I need to contact G. And the next day comes, and journalists go to the university place where the fire happened, and they ask if there were injuries. and about students and flammable materials. Then G arrives with Fang to the university, and the guards let them in. And G tells Fang it burned like this because of heavenly fire. So Fang tells her heavenly fire. So G tells him, yes, that's its name. And there's no warning and impossible to extinguish. And it doesn't stop until it eats everything it wants. So G tells Fang, I'm going to the dean's office. Will you come with me or wait here? So Fang tells her, go ahead. I'll wait for you here. And Fang goes to the accident site and enters it. And touches the ground and thinks and says the ground is cold and there's no trace of fire energy. This of course I can't collect. And suddenly someone calls Fang, so Fang looks and finds it's Joe with her friend. And Joe tells him what brought you here. So her friend tells her, isn't this your ex-boyfriend who went to a mediocre college? So Joe tells her yes. So her friend laughs and tells Fang, do you still love Joe? So Fang is surprised by her words, and students gather, and one of them says, isn't this Joe? Why is she with someone like that? So another one says, I haven't seen him before. He's not from our school. So a student says, isn't security supposed not to let strangers in? So Joe's friend goes to Fang and tells him, Joe is the school beauty. You don't know how many guys want to talk to her. Who are you? You're not supposed to be here. The school is closed. How did you get in here? If you don't tell me, I'll report you. And Joe thinks and says, didn't he say I'll regret the breakup? Why did he come here? Then G comes and tells Fang, is this your friend? So Fang tells her this is a study colleague from high school. So G tells him just a colleague, and Joe and her friend get scared of G, and are surprised she knows Fang. And G tells Fang, I spoke with the dean, and he explained the heavenly fire situation, and the situation is worse than we imagined. Hard to explain clearly. The dean wants to verify any point, and you're now an appointed consultant from the army, so you need to come too. So, Fang agrees to come with her, and many guards come out with the dean, and students are surprised when they see the dean, and Joe thinks and says the dean is always busy. Even the vice dean couldn't see him. Did he come because of G and Fang? And Joe's friend says, is the dean here to arrest G and Fang? And the dean goes to greet Fang, and tells him, surely you're the consultant who came with G. There are many anomalies present, and I'm afraid students will get hurt because of the fires. And the dean bows to Fang, and tells him, I hope you deal with the incident. And Joe is shocked when she sees this, and students are surprised by what's happening. And they say, who said he's Joe's boyfriend? Even if she ran after him, she couldn't reach him. And Joe doesn't know what to do. And the dean walks with Fang and G, and the dean says after the sun made fires at the north gate, I thought things ended there, but a few nights ago, fire suddenly ignited in the field, and fire trucks couldn't extinguish it. Fortunately, there were no students, and we could control the situation. But the second field and third field, one field igniting is possible, but the impurities continued happening one after another. I saw with my own eyes flames falling from the sky, but we could extinguish the fire in the other fields, but not this field. So Fang thinks and says, what is this suffocating smell? So Fang tells them this ring is the cause of ignition. So the dean tells him, yes, the fire didn't go out. And G sees a basic detection device for abnormal soul power. If it exceeds threshold 10, ordinary people must be quarantined. Ordinary people are fragile. Anomalies above 10 would be a disaster. If it continues rising, it won't just affect Qingqing University, but the whole city. We should send 3 soldiers from 3-star Ghost Axe Elite and 7 soldiers from 2-star Ghost Axe Elite. For resistance, their spiritual power should be pure. Their development should be strong, but Fang runs and jumps over the barrier, so the anomaly level rises again, from S level, and G doesn't know what to do, and suddenly the fire becomes scary looking, and G thinks and says, how can he go inside alone, even if he was the best pioneer in the forbidden area? And Fang is inside the fire, and thinks and says last time Yang attribute protected me from thunder, heavenly fire should be stoppable, but when my body heats up, I can't touch the primitive flame, nor activate composite technique function, so I need to get closer to the primitive flame, and suddenly the fire monster attacks Fang. But Fang can stop it, but its power is great, and Fang tries to stop it, and the system says severe fluctuations detected in heavenly fire attribute. So Fang says, as expected from heavenly fire, more fierce and powerful than destructive power, but will absorb you, and the system says computing power running, and then Fang can take the heavenly fire attribute, and it becomes a technique for 9 dragons, heavenly fire, 9 dragons fire, and it can purify evil, and doesn't need training, and you can use it. And Fang uses heavenly fire, Power and chains come out binding the 9 dragons, and G and the Dean stand watching what's happening. And G says, I once saw military pioneers sealing a forbidden area. Their method wasn't the same as Fang's, but the sealing aura was similar, and Lin can gather the fire monster's powers and bind them with chains. And Fang tells the Dean, I sealed the heavenly fire here temporarily. Don't lift the seal on the field, and don't let any person approach. This way the fire won't spread. So the Dean tells him, I'll keep the place sealed. Plus the university has many fields. So Fang tells him yes, you're spending to make 7 or 8 fields. So the Dean tells him if you need anything. But G tells the Dean I want to talk to Fang. So the Dean tells her, no problem, go ahead. So G tells him you know how to hide yourself well. So Fang tells her the fire was fierce and hard to deal with. So G tells him don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. You can hide your talent. It's natural for pioneers to keep secrets, even though I know I have no right to ask for anything. But I want you to listen, the Shia nation desperately needs first-class talents. Think about it. When you can regenerate spiritual energy, you'll be a reward for nuclear deterrence. That's why the Forbidden Military Zones and the Spiritual Energy Association will all be eager to recruit you. Don't be surprised if foreign powers try to tempt you with offers. I won't deny that I have my own motives for joining the army, because the military zone will gain a powerful ally. That's why I'm suggesting you think about it, so you won't hesitate when the time comes. Fang tells her, you and Old both see that I'm going to join the military zone. Am I not good enough? G tells him, because in the Forbidden Zone, there are people who are unnaturally powerful. That's why you'll be of more interest. Fang tells her, this is a first-class unit. She tells him, I haven't seen them before because they were busy. Fang thinks and says, the upper military departments in the nation are so busy that officers in other regions. G tells him, enough talk. The colonel said he'd invite us to the university cafeteria. Fang thinks and says, they must be facing many problems, and this indicates the presence of terrifying anomalies that far exceed the power of current pioneers. Surely the pioneers are like me, or stronger than me. And on the day of spiritual energy revival, I'm still not prepared enough. How can I increase the fire attribute I gathered in the stadium? The fire moves without pattern and spreads everywhere, like an endless forest fire, matching the fire sword technique. Additional spells don't hurt at all, the more the better. Maybe smake some tension. We go to the back mountain and Fang goes to the forest. He walks, thinking and saying, the back mountain has nothing strange in it, but it's closed. The army isn't supposed to know I train and experiment here. The only people who know my habits are the Spiritual Energy Association. They gave me this entire area to experiment in. Since that's the case, I'll accept this respectfully. The pests appear and infiltrate the back mountain. This aura is like what was in the factory, but not as strong. There's a beast watching Fang. Fang thinks and says, I've gained some intelligence and assess whether it will attack based on my strength. Let's see it better. A message appears from the system saying, heavenly fire is known as the upper flame. The attribute is light, strong, and pure. It destroys evil. The system asks Fang if he wants to implant the heavenly fire in Tang's blade. Fang says, yes. Heavenly fire combined with my crimson flame blade technique. What kind of effect will it unleash? He looks at the beast and throws the firearm at it. The beast tries to escape from the fire. Fang says, the firepower energy is at least twice as strong as my original Crimson Flame Blade technique, and this energy doesn't harm me. Fang wants to chase the beast. We see a girl in the forest filming it. She tells her followers this is her first day of live streaming, but suddenly a beast attacks her and knocks her to the ground. Her phone was about to fall and break. The beast strangles the girl and wants to kill her, but suddenly the beast sees fire above it in the shape of a dragon, so the beast runs away, leaving the girl. The video reaches many views. The girl gets up and films Fang's firepower. The video spreads everywhere. Chu's friend sees the video and tells Chu, come look, there's someone saving people. Chu tells her, don't believe things on the internet. She goes to look at the video, and her friend tells her, look, I told you it's real. Chu gets angry and says, this video is fake. When she sees Fang, she thinks and says, could this be Fang? But if it were him, he would have burned and turned to ash. And if it's him, will he seize the opportunity for revenge against me? We go to the widow and Lin. The widow sees the video, goes to Lin and tells her, isn't this similar to the major who saved us from the vines? Lin tells her, I know there's someone who broke into the spirit world living near my house. It might be him. We see a girl standing with someone named Lee, and she tells him, isn't this Fang? Lee tells her, it might be him. We see the association president holding a meeting, saying, the city's crisis is increasing, and we don't have enough pioneers. He says the army spoke with Fang. Sue tells him, this will help us. We go to the army meeting, and G says, to reach the spirit formation world in this short time, what kind of beast is this? Even anomalies will be able to handle it. How many high-level attributes did he possess? Han tells her, with all this, we must recruit Fang. Ji tells him, you mean the high levels want to talk with him? Han tells her, yes, but they don't want to humble themselves and accept Fang, because in the end, all the great pioneers are from within the army. We'll give Fang advanced weapons and equipment, plus information about the best training locations. We must deal with the live broadcast and the viral video. Ji thinks and says, everyone now wants Fang. We see a girl sitting with someone in the hospital, saying, the future of the Shia nation will have new hope, and with the appearance of someone with this power, your chances of recovery have increased. After a day, we see Fang sitting at home, thinking and saying, who would have believed someone would come to film? Now the video has disappeared and the account is closed. It seems like the army or the Spiritual Energy Association did this. Fang notices that Lin isn't in her room. Fang calls her to see where she is, but finds her phone is off. I need to go look for her. Lin is with the widow. Lin tells the widow, we've been trapped for a long time. Can you calculate this? The widow tells her, we've been here for 10 hours. I'm sorry I got you involved in what's happening from the beginning. I thought it was an ordinary ghost. Lin tells her, no, I'm the one who's not strong. Lin thinks and says, if only I could be like that expert. Suddenly, a huge beast appears behind them.